What up, Doe? One Pride. This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where one pride goes worldwide. My name is Anthony Fitzpatrick. I'm joined this evening by Ryan McCluskey. It is a Wednesday evening, which can only mean one thing. Yes, it is the college football podcast, Foghorn, Longhorn. Week 2 of the season already been and gone. A lot going on in the world of college football, right? It's good to have this routine back again. Plenty of games every week. We're getting upsets, near upsets, all sorts going on. Just so glad it's back.
Yep, football is well and truly back in the swing of things. And it's been a drama-filled ridden 2 weeks already. Like I said, not a lot is going right for a lot of people. But yeah, it's totally wide open. I think this is one of the most wide open years I've had in the last number of years.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had upsets, we've had near upsets, we've had developing storylines. We have all sorts going. There is a ton for us to talk about today, so we are not going to dilly-dally long on the stuff to start with. Thank you to everyone who's joined us. I see Grandizer is in the building, Lisa De Lorenzo, Brent's in on YouTube. Hope you are all doing well. Seen Mike the Marine on Twitch as well. Hope you are doing well there, Mike. Hope we're all still basking in the win of the Lions win over the Chiefs the other day. I know I sure am. I've been absolutely, just inflated full of enthusiasm all week. As for today's show, we've got a little bit of news to go through. We are going to go through week 2 of the college football season, then we're going to preview week 3, all that good stuff. Let me just quickly get the housekeeping out the way. Roar of the Lions UK Discord, if you want in, let us know. We'll send you a link. The main podcast, obviously, was on Saturday this week, so obviously we had the later game last week, so we had the review show for the Chiefs game Saturday. We'll be back tomorrow with our preview for the Seattle Seahawks game. We'll be talking with some of the guys from We Talk Seahawks over here in the UK, so we will have Seahawks voices on the show with us. It'll be good fun, so hopefully you can join us roughly the same time tomorrow as well. Don't forget to like and sub, all that good stuff. YouTube, Twitch, we appreciate you all who back us there. Don't forget about Lions Nation Unite, Herman Moore's pet project. You will find all great content creators on there for the Detroit Lions. All content for Lions fans. And then don't forget, obviously, we are affiliated on Twitch, YouTube, we're monetized, we've got a tip jar, all that sort of stuff. So if you want to back the pod, that would be great. But we just love having your company at the end of the day. That is all we do it for. And of course, we have a feedback form as well. So if there's anything you want to tell us about the shows, any way we can improve, all that good stuff, just let us know. Right, we are just going to dive straight down into the thick of it today, Ryan, and going to call this our legal section of the show, the legal news today, as it were, because there is a lot of stuff going on in the land of college football at the moment, which is involving the legal side of things out there. And of course, this week it was announced that we've had our first head coaching, well, I say casualty of the year, not quite a casualty just yet, but it's not going to be long. And that was, of course, the huge news that Michigan State head coach Mel Tucker has been suspended without pay by the university. This is due to a Title IV investigation that has been made into him, accusing him of sexual assault against Brenda Tracy. She is a rape survivor and an activist who has been to the Michigan State campus multiple times. She's been a speaker to the football team regarding all things, in that area. She's been going there since 2021. Not going to tell you everything that's gone off there. You can go read about it. But just to say the sort of timeline of this, the complaint was first filed in December of 2022 last year. The investigation into him was closed in July of this year, which recommended a formal hearing, which is going to take place on the 4th to the 5th of October, after which Mel Tucker is expected to be fired. Now, big thing here, even if whatever has been said about him, even if he's innocent of what's been said and what's not gone off, he will still have violated his morality clause, which a lot of coaches have in the college football circuit, all about, your manner, your disposition in work, not bringing the university into disrepute. And what he's done violates a whole lot of those clauses in there. So he can be sacked with no buyout of his contract necessary. He'll get nothing from it. And I mean, he was on a 10-year, $95 million deal. He was the 5th highest paid coach in college football. I mean, right, for a uni that's still got the stench of the Larry Nassar scandal around it and all these things that have gone on, this could not have come at a worse time for the team and for the university.
No. So early into a season, a terrible time for, like I say, the players, the fans, the university, so fresh into a season. And yeah, as you say, regardless of whatever happens of the actual outcome, Mel Tucker reign is over, and there's a good chance that his coaching career probably with it too. I feel like he's going to be pretty much untouchable after this comes out. So yeah, it's certainly come out, and there's been a lot of things said. Like I said, I think he's come out and made a statement saying that it was consensual and things like that. He's come out and he's said that he acknowledges what happened, but it's been misconstrued. So yeah, the outcome and the investigation, like I say, has happened pretty swiftly. Like I say, less than a year turnaround, but yeah, a disaster for the Spartans. I believe one of their assistants has taken over as interim head coach in the meantime.
Yeah, I was just about to say, so in absentum of him there, the secondaries coach, Harlan Barnett, will take over. He'll be known as the acting head coach. And they've actually brought back their former head coach, Mark D'Antonio. He's coming on as the associate head coach as well. And anyone who knows the Spartans, D'Antonio was the guy who created those really good Michigan State teams of the early 10s. You know, they were really highly thought of back then, played some great football, but he's obviously been out of circulation for a bit, and he kind of left Michigan State under a bit of a cloud. Not these sort of allegations, but other things, I know. So, but yeah, it's secondaries coach in there. D'Antonio's back. It might be good for him. He's a guy who is very familiar with the program. He's well respected around the university. So, but yeah, it's just poor this time of year, isn't it? And yeah, he's not going to survive this.
No. D'Antonio coming back saves a little bit of face, I suppose, when the fans a nice, friendly, familiar face that brings back good times. They'll be hoping that, I don't know, it's a bit of a distraction and might keep the football team on some sort of straight and narrow while this pans out.
Yeah, absolutely. Lisa also mentions about the scuffle they had at the big house last year, you know, him failing to keep his team under control and that. Yeah, they had one really good year and then they just went all in on him with this massive deal, and it's really, really not worked out for the team there. But yeah, just unpleasant business all around there with Mel Tucker. He is expected to be the first head coach. Well, he's gone, so he's technically the first head coaching casualty of this season. Moving on. Other legal matters revolving around college football. This is a big one, Ran. I'm pretty sure you've mentioned it a couple of times before, but this is to all do with UNC wide receiver Tez Walker. He has been denied eligibility to play for the 2023 season, and man oh man, this has set off an explosive chain of events in the wake of that decision. So what this all reverberates back to, on January the 11th this year, the NCAA announced it would be cracking down on allowing waivers for two-time transfers. This was 2 days before Walker began his classes at UNC, so they're trying to cut down on all these guys who just transfer all the time. So the guidelines, which were approved by the Division I Council, state multiple-time transfers who cannot demonstrate and adequately document a personal need for medical or safety reasons to depart the previous school are not eligible to compete immediately following their second undergraduate transfer. So, you know, in simple words, if you can't prove a reason that's, you know, if you've not been injured, if you can't prove like injury has hampered your career and you need to move for the sake of your career, or your mental health is impacting you, you know, you've moved to the other side of the country, you're away from your family, whatever, and you want to do it home, if you can't prove that there's a good reason for you to transfer twice, you're not allowed to play the first year when you go to your next team. You've got to wait, which all sounds fair and good, but however, Walker, in his case, he never played at his first school, North Carolina Central. That was due to the pandemic. A lot of the FCS teams didn't play. And he transferred to Kent State before he ever took a snap. Both Kent State and UNC have both shown extensive proof to the NCAA that Walker has been struggling with his mental health because he comes from Carolina, he's away from his family, looks after his grandmother there, and coming back to UNC is designed to help him with that. He's been a great player for Kent State, but he wanted to move home closer to the family. He's had sessions with mental health experts, and after all this was said and done, his move was made before these rules came into place, but they have still denied him his application to play this year. And in the wake of this, the head coach Matt Brown, the AD Bubba Cunningham, they have gone in hard with their statements on the NCAA. Matt Brown, he goes, "I don't know if I've ever been more disappointed in a person, group of people, or an institution that I am with the NCAA right now. It's clear that the NCAA is all about process, and it couldn't care less about the young people it's supposed to be supporting. Plain and simple, they failed Tez and his family. I've lost all faith in its ability to lead and govern our sport. How dare they ever speak about mental health and student-athlete welfare again? We've got complete rosters overhauled through the portal, players playing in their 8th year of college, players playing at their 4th school, the list goes on, yet Tez, who's only played football at one school, isn't eligible." And he finished it off by saying, "Shame on you, NCAA," and in capital letters, "Shame on you." And I know UNC, all their high bodies are getting together, and there's a good chance that there's going to be legal action on the table here against them. But right, this is highlighting a big issue in college football at the minute. It's ridiculous that he's not allowed to play. He's played at one team. The transfer was made, he'd not played in a COVID year. The other opportunity came up. He is going home for the right reasons. This is not someone who's transferring for the sake of it, and they've just said no. This is going to cause a massive issue when all is said and done.
Yeah. It's one of those, it's really difficult because everyone understands why they brought the rules in to stop guys like Quinn Ewers just hopping around until he gets comfortable and finds a starting gig. A lot of quarterbacks do it every single year. They lose a starting job or they don't win a starting job in spring, hit the portal. A few years later, like you said, we've seen the likes of, obviously there's been injuries, but guys like JT Daniels and guys like that, they've been all over, and they're trying to stop it. People that, are just jumping ship because they're not happy or they're not getting their way and finding somewhere to go start. This guy doesn't fall under that remit, though. Lost a year because of COVID. Has played one real season of football. He's never caused any trouble, never kicked up a fuss, and he's going home because, he wants to be near his family, wants to continue his education and be closer to those that care around him, while also being able to play football. He's lost a year. He's only played for 1 year, but denied his eligibility, and I really don't feel like there's any justification for his actual rejection of his thing. I understand why I think the university probably made it a lot worse as well. Their reaction, some of the words they've said, they've certainly not helped the case go ahead, and I agree they probably are going to go legal action. Ultimately, the biggest loser in this is Tez, because he now is stuck in limbo, where he can't play football this year. His future after that, being further doubt, because you never know what's going to happen in the space of a year. Love football, may not want to play. So, yeah, he must be in a really dark place, struggling. Thought this would be the perfect thing for him and everyone around him, but it's caused a national scandal. He didn't want this media attention. Doesn't want it. Probably just wants to be left alone, him and his family, but now he is right in the eye of the storm. And yeah, that their university are going at the NCAA hard, because they've made these rules which are fine, but implementing them against the wrong kind of people.
Yeah, it should be very easy in a lot of cases to suddenly decipher what this is about, because people go, well, why didn't, if he wanted to be so close to his family, why wasn't he in the first place? But the thing is, his first team was North Carolina Central. He got the offer from the FCS team. He didn't get any others. That was the biggest one. He wanted to stay close to home. You missed a year because of COVID, but then when an FBS team comes calling, I know Kent State's a while away, but it's you kind of got to take it. If you have football aspirations, it's better to be at Kent State, where he's been a starter and a very effective one, than to be at North Carolina Central. And then for him to raise his stock that one of the bigger teams closer to home, like UNC, have taken an interest in him, he's great, I've done my stock, I can go back home now. I've had transferred once, technically. I can go play at a big team, I can be near my family, they can come and watch me play. And it's like, it's just, like I say, it's the wrong person to crack down on. We've seen so many people abusing this rule. We've seen head coaches abusing it by taking players with them all over the place, not naming any names there, but wrong guy in the wrong place. So it's awful for him. It should not be allowed. And I know there's other teams who are filing these grievances as well, but what makes it really big is that the NCAA, who love to say they'll never comment on an issue, they've released their own statement about this, saying their members are getting threatened, they feel intimidated, all this stuff is going on. It's just, this is going to boil over into something big, I feel. And I think a lot of teams might get involved with UNC on this, but you've got to be, it should be easy. It should be an easy process to wheedle out those who are doing it for their own benefit and to those who genuinely need to use the portal. As I say, I agree with the overall rule, but yeah, this is not great. So hopefully they can sort something out and Tez can play football this year, because it would be devastating.
With NIL coming in now, I think there needs to be an NFLPA.
Yeah.
There has to be that college now. Now they're getting paid and they're being treated like professional athletes. I feel like they need protecting like professional athletes too, that can step in and be the middle party in this kind of thing. Because as you say, the NCAA is saying like UNC have caused violence towards their staff, and they're inciting fighting and death threats, and like, oh yeah, it's going to get ugly as this.
No, absolutely it is. Mike the Marine says the NCAA should have evaluated this as a case-by-case basis with this as an exception. Absolutely, that's what they should do. Case-by-case, rule on it, be fair on it. And then he goes, plus this causes undue financial stress because he's not under athletic scholarship program. I guess he wouldn't have an athletic scholarship if he can't play, would he? So I guess that is a financial. I didn't think about that. Yeah, I didn't actually even think about that. So yeah, Mike brings up a really good point there. His funding's pulled, so that's going to be even worse. I assume they'll look after him, but that's just terrible all round. Exlos Ocean goes, I'd love to hear your thoughts on sports betting investigations into college athletes. Why the state of Iowa is the only one looking into it, I can guarantee it. Well, that is something we'll get round to. I'll have to probably do some more research into that, Lost Oceans, but certainly we will get round to that at some point. But yeah, hopefully for Tez Walker, he gets that sorted. Absolutely rubbish what's happened to him. And the final bit of legal news that we've got today, news is all legal based, Pac-12, we heard about them, they're now the Pac-2, but in further legal news, the Pac-12 themselves have had a temporary restraining order slapped on them by its two remaining schools, Washington State and Oregon State. This means that the Pac-12 can hold no votes on the future of the conference until it is decided where the balance of power lies between the conference and its remaining schools. As it stands, all the teams departing the conference still get a say on conference matters until they are gone. Washington State and Oregon State very rightly agree that that should not be the case. And again, this stuff with the Pac-12 is just as messy as well, isn't it? It's just like, why should USC or UCLA or any of these guys have a say on what happens? It should be in the hands of the two teams left, really, shouldn't it, Ryan? This is not a surprise.
No, it's not a surprise at all. The two teams that are left have got to try everything in their power now to protect themselves. And while they wait for the life raft to come in, they're currently Jack, and the Pac-12 is Rose, and there is no room left on that wooden door, and they're just out in the icy water on their own. I say until like the Mountain West teams and that can join, like you say, but that could be a year or two away. We actually get finalised. They're on their own, and they're backed into a corner. So yeah, they're going to start throwing out embargoes. Like I say, the teams that are leaving right now, I don't see why they care. They shouldn't even be trying to meddle.
No, but you know what? Teams are like, they have the power, they will meddle. Like guys like USC have got people on the playoff panel and all this sort of stuff, so you know, you don't want them having
to join the Pac-12.
You don't,
yeah. The media rights deal isn't great, and then you also look at it right now and you think it's poorly run. The commission is not doing a great job. Like, it's really not that attractive, if I'm honest.
No, it's not. But good on the two remaining schools for sort of standing their ground on that. So that is all the news. As I say, a lot of legal rumblings getting on. Let's talk about some college football, shall we now? Because we are a college football podcast. And of course, week 2 has come and gone. It feels crazy that it's already the third weekend of college football that's been. Seems like a minute ago since it started. But we are right in the thick of things now. And as always, you get in the title of the show, you get talked about first. Today's title, Foghorn, Longhorn. A giant fell, Ryan. Alabama, we asked this question last year. Was it a fluke win against Texas? Quinn Ewers was knocked out injured. They were losing before he got knocked out. Texas looked like every bit they had their number. It was the return leg of this branch of the rivalry this time. Quinn Ewers was fully healthy. The Longhorns rolled in to Tuscaloosa. Game day, everything's on the line. Big fanfare. Start of a new season for Alabama, who've had a poor season. And guess what, folks? Last year was no fluke. Alabama did escape by the skin of their teeth, because this year they did not get so lucky. The Longhorns rolled into Alabama's home and won 34-24. I mean, this was maybe one of the most complete performances I've seen from a team in a long time. To go to Alabama and to win, you have to play a complete game. Your quarterback has to play out of his mind. Your offense has to, running backs, wide receivers have to make big plays. Your defense, you've got to be nasty. You've got to get after the quarterback. You've got to completely disrupt the way that Bama team play. And then in the secondary, you've got to take the ball away and keep the Alabama offense off the field. And they did just about everything in this one. We'll talk about the game in depth in a second, right? But just the high-level stuff here. Man, oh man, Texas looked like a serious outfit now. This is year 3 of Steve Sarkisian. His players are in there. He's got his quarterback. He's got his 5-star guys. He's got his big players. And he's made a formidable team there. And damn, did not they look good.
Yep, they looked brilliant across the board. And this felt like the breakout game for Quinn Ewers. If I'm honest, I've never been sold on him. And I really didn't rate him that highly. But maybe I judged him too soon. Maybe I was wrong about him. Pretty much had a flawless day. Like I say, on the road. A very partisan environment, as Tuscaloosa always is. Steve Sarkisian's putting himself in the shop window for, I'm going to say, some NFL offensive coordinator jobs this time next year. I reckon he's going to be pretty highly touted, like I say, because they looked good through the air, looked good on the ground, and yeah, they're just a really well-run team. So yeah, it feels like this has been coming for Bama for quite a while.
No, it does, and I mean, Bama never looked in control of this. There was never any point where you got comfortable with them thinking that they looked really good here. So, you know, they sort of traded points early on. It was quite a low-scoring game, actually. You come into the fourth quarter, Texas are 16-13 down, and this is where I was so impressed with them, him, Quinn Ewers. They were clutch. I mean, first of all, that first touchdown, that moon ball to Xavier Worthy, that was just such... I love a good old moon ball, but it was so perfectly placed, and it went about 40 yards or something crazy like that. The throws he made were amazing, but you know, you're on the road, you're 3 points down in the fourth, usually when Bama get at you. Bama have just scored a touchdown at this point, so what do Texas come and do? 3-play, 75-yard drive for a touchdown to take back the lead. They didn't flinch in the fear of anything. 3 plays, got the lead. And then again, it was 27-24, Texas with 10 minutes left. You know, Bama got a touchdown back. Another stunning drive from them. And again, Ewers torching the Bama secondary. It was a 39-yard touchdown pass this time. It was, again, you're just keeping Bama at arm's length all the way through this. And then on the other side of the ball, what they did to Jalen Milroe, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about him. You know, he's not played much, he's not been a starter there, and he's not the usual, he's not come with the usual, like, big acclaim that a big Alabama quarterback transfer does. Like when Bryce Young came in, everyone was excited. A lot of people who were not sold on him. It's been difficult. He's had a battle in camp with Tyler Buchner and the other guy, Ty Simpson, I think it is. He's only just won this job. And Texas dealt with him so well. So Milroe's, he's a running quarterback, but he's also got a damn good deep ball on him. You saw it a couple of times in the game. His long ball is amazing. It's his stuff in the first 2 levels, which is just absolutely basic and terrible. So Texas sat 8 deep, cut off the deep ball, put pressure on him with the defensive line that was amazing, harried him, took him out the pocket, and they just basically... And if he tried to run and he did scramble, they got 8 guys, they just came in and piled on him. They really stopped him from being effective on this. Threw 2 picks. There was a fumble in there as well, and it didn't help. The snapping was awful. The Bama center, I don't know who it was snapping the ball here, there, and everywhere. And Texas themselves had an 18% havoc rate on the day, 9 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 2 picks. Just ramped up all the pressure in the world on Jalen Monroe, and he was not able to go. And on the other side, Quinn Ewers, maybe the most mature, calm, collected performance I've seen from a quarterback in some time, Ryan. You said that you could tell one was the hyped superstar who's had college experience, who looked like a superstar, and the other a guy who is unsure, doesn't really believe, fans didn't really believe and take to him, and made some stupid picks in this game. I mean, when Texas were 2016 up, he threw a pick which allowed them to score another touchdown and pull away. He threw a pick early on as well to change momentum. A tale of 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, one looks like a guy struggling under the weight of the pressure to replace Bryce Young. And whoever was going to come in and try to do that job, they were never going to succeed. But also, they're trying to play as well under the offensive coordinatorship of Tommy Rees. Like I say, they brought Tyler Buchner over, one of his old quarterbacks. Like, it's not really clicking, is it, right at the start of the season for Bama and their offense? It's not looking good on the sides. They don't have much faith in what they're trying to do. And also, that it seems like it's a job too big for the quarterback. Like I said, Texas took everything away and they made him dink and dunk. And when he had to scramble, like I say, just peppered him wherever they could, and they forced him into mistakes. And then when you look on the bench, there's really not a lot of relief of him. Would I trust Ty Simpson or Tyler Buchner to do much better? Probably not, no, because I won't keen on one of them even being brought in. So, they've definitely got an issue at the quarterback position. And, Texas were not afraid to go after their biggest strength, secondary. Bama's secondary in the last few years, last decade, it's been pretty formidable most years and has got some pretty big names in it. But that did not put Steve off, did not put them going after it, taking shots. And they were not there to just try and methodical drive down the field and kill time. They just went after them and were scoring on splash plays. So, they fought fire with fire, and they deserve to win in the end.
Yeah, well, you saw last year, Bama's secondary was terrible, except Brian Branch. Teams got after them with the deep balls, but they set it up by running the ball well, doing all the short stuff really well, which Ewers did, and then they got the one-on-ones, and they just absolutely tore them to shreds there. I mean, Bama, it was just not like them. You could tell they missed Will Anderson for damn sure, because they had, 6 tackles for loss, but 5 of them were in the running game, just 1 tackle in pass for loss, no sacks, nothing, no pressure on Quinn Ewers. Now, that's not to take away from the O-line of Texas, but, I mean, there's something wrong with his roster, isn't there, right? You look at the quarterback, they don't have a top one, and you had guys like Sam Hartman in the portal. The O-line has been trash for a couple of years now. Bryce really papered over the cracks last year. They haven't been producing many top-tier guys for the draft. You look at that's poor. The D-line was poor. The secondary's been poor. It's like, you don't expect this from a team. They look short of talent in so many places on the field at the moment, and it's just not like them.
Not for an absolute powerhouse that is expected to just reload every year. In crucial parts, they've not managed to get those big port splashes or those 4 or 5 stars to step in straight away. And their offensive mindset is an issue. Like you say, Tommy Brockermeyer, they couldn't even hold on to him in the portal. He went to TCU. That's a 5-star tackle. Little experience, but it's not often you see players leave them when they've got a chance to play. But he said, nope, going to go to Horned Frogs, which is weird. So, they look devoid of talent in some places, and in areas they also look just low on confidence. Like that they know they're about to potentially hit a lull. And it happens eventually. Every team eventually just the pool dries up.
Yeah.
You don't expect it from not from any exciting side.
No.
Like I said, they're going to have to find something quickly, or they're going to find themselves getting leapfrogged in the SEC.
Well, I mean,
quickly.
you just take a look at Texas A&M. They've had God knows how many 5 stars over the years, and 5 stars means nothing. But with Saban, it's always been they've fulfilled their potential for the most part. But there's just some worrying things with his team. So I'd mentioned the turnovers. The turnover luck accounted for 10 points. That's what Milroe gave away with those picks. They lost by 10 points. It's fine margins, but even worse than that, the penalties. One thing you never associate with his teams is undisciplined. But last year, when they escaped out of Texas with that win, which they really shouldn't have had, there were 15 penalties on the day. They had 10 in this game. The undiscipline, especially against Texas, I don't know whether, because I know a lot were holds. I know the D-line were really getting at them. The offensive line were holding a bit, but there were penalties all over the show. This is another thing that's creeping in. You see more holes on the roster, and you see more indiscipline as well.
I think the cracks are starting to show in the last 18 months. Like I say, it's not Saban will be there probably till he croaks it. I can't see anyone no one's ever going to get rid of him. But their ability to just keep bringing in consistent conveyor belts of players, you don't see it this year. Like I said, they did not go out there and get their quarterback.
Yeah.
They had a consistent camp battle, and it's still a battle right now. I expect at least one of the other quarterbacks to start another game this year if they continue to struggle. And you never hear that in Bama. They've always got that guy. They never have to try multiple quarterbacks. But yeah, and you never hear of them losing their cool, like say, arguing with each other, talking back to referees or coaches. Like I say, that's the kind of ill discipline we're going to see this year. We're going to see fallouts, and we're going to see tempers start to fray a little bit, I think, if they do continue to struggle.
Yeah, but hopefully maybe we'll see new teams rise up there now. So Lisa says Texas played great, made Alabama look very bad. They did. She goes, I'm not real high on the Alabama QB, neither are we. But that's the thing. Texas stuck to their game plan. And WTF-tastic here says, I'm glad they actually challenged Bama. I'm just bored with them. And they did, didn't they? This was the main thing. You've talked about this whole game. They went there and they gave them no respect. Not in a bad way, but it's like, we don't care if this is your house. We don't care if College Game Day's here. We don't care if Saban's on this TV saying this, that, or that. We're going to come and play our game, and we're just that damn good. We're going to beat you. At the end of the day, that's what they did to win this one, wasn't it?
Yeah. They didn't back down. They went in there, and they said, we're going to put our strength on your strength. I said, your defense, your secondary, like I say, that I sent multiple players to the draft. We're going to go after it. And if you stop us, you stop us. If you can't, well, we're going to beat you. And that's what they did. Like I say, Xavier Worthy, splash players, just dismantled their defense and just took it apart. And as bad as I think the Big 12 is, Texas looked like an outlier for the playoffs. This will go very heavily on their resume going to Tuscaloosa and winning by 10 points. If they go unbeaten now all year, it would be hard to keep them out.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. We're going to talk about the rankings at the end of this, but I had Texas in my playoffs for this year, and they're up there now. Now, bear in mind, I need Penn State and Washington to get there as well, but, we'll take little victories as we do, but, yeah, they're up there now, and this is a massive win for them, so we'll have to see. But, yeah, well done to the Longhorns, well done to Steve Sarkisian, well done to Quinn Ewers. Absolutely fantastic game there. Mike the Marine goes, sidebar note, a funny comedian, Matt Mitchell, does short skits with Southern US humour, special college SEC schools, week 2, hilarious, check it out. I actually check out SEC shorts. They are funny as anything. I don't know whether that's the same thing, but they do a show every week after all the college games are done. SEC shorts are hilarious. So if it's the same one, I get you there completely right. Let's move it on. So from the fledgling, from the emerging hopes of one big Texas team to the, maybe already dead hopes of another Texas team. It's been going this way the last few years. Texas A&M, we talked about the team who get the superstar recruits and don't do anything with them. Well, they were in the battle of the struggling teams, let's say, in recent years with the Miami Hurricanes. They travelled over to Florida to take on Miami. This was one of our pick-watch games, and I know we split on this. I picked the Hurricanes. Believe in Cristobal more than I do in Fisher. And my oh my, talking of teams that look rejuvenated like Texas did, Miami are another team who I came away from this dirt impressed with. They were really good. Won this game 48-33, and who would have thunk it? If you give a high level, high caliber quarterback like Tyler Van Dyke a good offensive line to work behind, magical things happen. I mean, this was another game where Texas A&M early, it looked really bad for Miami, Florida. There was some really bad defense. There was a muffed punt from Miami, which gave A&M a touchdown. So A&M were up early, 17-7 in this one. But then, I don't know. This is the second year of Cristobal. You know, he took over a team that was just in the trenches. They were nowhere. They've had all these great players. They've done nothing with them. And this team started to fight like I've not seen it in a long time. Tyler Van Dyke was absolutely amazing. His offensive line kept him upright for nearly all this game. The receivers, the running backs, everyone pitched in on this one, and they overcame this deficit and then put a big lead, on Texas, who ultimately were just not able to get back into this one and make mistakes. But high-level ones with this, Rye, I mean, you gotta say, I know you don't like them as much as you like A&M, and I understand the skepticism, and I'm still skeptical myself. But for this game alone, this was a huge statement win for them. They're playing in the Hard Rock, which is devoid of fans because no one believes in them. They had so many injuries last year, so many questions on that team, but they answered a lot this week.
Yep, fell behind early, didn't start well, didn't look great, but found a way to dig in, and eventually broke the spirit of Texas A&M and pulled away for a big win. And yeah, Van Dyke, I'm pretty sure in week one, first game, was pretty poor. I think he had a pretty bad opener in the season by his standards, but yeah, totally in the rearview mirror already. Went out, put up a complete perfect day essentially. Everything went right for him, and he just went to town on that Texas A&M defense. A&M, they'll be so disappointed. Came out, jumped out to a lead, and then everything they were doing well either stopped working or they stopped doing. And they're not a team built to come from behind. They've never been built to come from behind and regain a lead. And yep, they were always at arm's length after that. They were never able to get back into it. And Miami, in the end, saw it out through offense. So yeah, it was definitely a game of halves. It felt very different before and after the half.
Yeah, absolutely. Quick shout out to Derek Biddleman, who's joined us in the chat. He's asked us a question. I'll answer that in a bit, Derek. But that's what it was, a game of two halves. A&M looked good, but then the Hurricanes figured something out. I mean, their offense was so good. The success rate for the team, so that's plays that were, involved some sort of forward progression success, 48%. That's the 82nd percentile there. 8.35 yards per play. 95 percentile. The yards every time Van Dyke dropped back, 11.69. So when he dropped back and threw it, God, they got yardage. Explosive play rate of 15%, third down rate 55%, red zone success rate 56%, all high in the 80th percentiles there on offense. And I mean, we were talking about receivers, guys, because when we did the sort of preview on them the other week, receiver was the position with them which we weren't quite sure about. Running back, you've got Henry Parrish, you've got Mark Fletcher, the new super recruit they've got there. They did okay in this, but names that you should look out for: Xavier Restrepo, 6 receptions, 126 yards. Some of the catches he made, especially on third downs, the yak he got after them, this guy was sensational. If he plays like that much more, he's going to be a name very well known quickly. You've got Jacoby George, 5 receptions, 94 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the day. He was the go-to guy for TVD and the end zone. Colby Young, 6 receptions, 75 yards and a touchdown. Isaiah Horton, 1 reception, 52 yards and a touchdown on there. I mean, they just went to town on this team, right? This is, again, an A&M team. They have a lot of high-level recruits there. And the defense wasn't actually that bad last year. It's usually the offense that holds them back. But Miami, that high-powered offense, it just teed off on them.
Yeah, they came out of the half and they just kicked into another gear. And the A&M defense, like I say, that has never been the issue. last 2-3 years they've dragged teams into some absolute horrible brawls, and that defense has kept them in most games. And it was guys like Dax Alzada and Haynes King and that were naff at the quarterback position, couldn't get anything going in offense. This time though, mustered good points throughout the game, but that defense picked apart, and by mention, not even a star receiver, just by a whole committee of guys spreading the ball out, and they just could not cover any square inch of the field. And I think that's probably what will frustrate them the most. The fact is they just got taken to the cleaners in the second half, and Tyler Van Dyke, no pressure. D-line, which Texas A&M is known for really well, the D-line, it didn't get to him. It didn't disrupt him. They didn't get in passing lanes. They didn't cause him any real issues in the second half whatsoever. And he had the cleanest of pockets to work out of, and he just picked them off like shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah, and I mean, I talked about Cristobal. He's an O-line guy. He's been very smart. They've got 3 5-star tackles there. 2 of them are new. One's been injured, but they held up. You got the centre from UCF, who's amazing, who they've brought in, who was great. They had the guy from Alabama. He had 1,500 snaps. You mentioned about TCU luring Bama O-linemen away, but they've got a right guard now for Bama who had 1,500 snaps for them. He had a really bad first year, but after that, he's been just fine. And it's like they've got the right amount of experience and young guys, and they're developing them, which is amazing. There's work to be done on the defense, but you've got to give A&M their due as well. Connor Wigman, the new quarterback there, I mean, he threw his first 2 picks of his collegiate career in this game. One was a bad one, but the second was chasing the game at the end. But he'd gone 13 touchdowns, no interceptions up till this. It actually looks, weirdly enough, their defense is just starting to go off. But they've actually found a quarterback who looks half good now. He's still relatively new in the role, but again, he didn't make a lot of boneheaded mistakes in this one. Made some really good passes, sort of torched that Miami secondary, which has got the best safety pairing in the country. It was a really good outing from the opposite quarterback as well, Connor Wigman.
Yeah, he's looked pretty sound up until, I'd say, one bad pick. But so far, he's settled into life at A&M fairly comfortably. I say, and he was perfect before the day. His touchdown ratio. Someone that's still learning the scheme. Say, still got a lot of growth. And if he's protected, given weapons, he has got the tools to go out and be successful. So both quarterbacks on the day were able to find success when they wanted it. I say it was just the A&M defense too leaky. I say their secondary just gaping holes.
Yeah, exactly. But hopefully, if he stays at that, they'll still be able to get to a bowl game this year. I'm not sure where they're at, but you've got to look at the 2 respective coaches now. Cristobal, if he turns that around, will get any job he wants anywhere. And I know it's early days, I'm not getting out my boots, but it's very positive. This is year 2. They already look a damn sight better than last year because they were injury-ridden, quarterback injured, offensive line injured, so many people injured. He's got everyone healthy now, he's got them playing well, but, I mean, for Jimbo, when's this boat going to sail? It's year 6. You're coming in against... this is a really bad loss for them because this is a Miami team who have not been good. They haven't. Now, fair enough, they might be good now, but you don't expect to go there and lose. The curtain call's got to come soon, surely, if this carries on.
Yeah. He's flattered to deceive now for a number of years. They've been stagnant. They've never, ever contended in the conference. They've picked up wins, but they've never been a threat. He's recycled multiple quarterbacks in 6 years, not really found success with any of them because he's not an offensive guy. He's not a quarterback guy. He's had recruits. I'd say as well, and how many 4 and 5 stars have they had recruited that have decommitted? They've lost just as many big recruits if they had taken them. I'd say so. I don't know. It's a program it's not free falling, but it's not going anywhere under him.
It's stagnant.
There's no direction. Yeah, they are just treading water, and eventually that has got to not be good enough. That right now it seems like they're just settling for this. And if I'm a fan, it's not good enough anymore.
I mean, it's the
decision's got to be made.
It's the contract, isn't it? Really, that I think that they don't really want to stump up.
They don't want to buy him out.
No, but don't pay him that much in the first place, and you won't have this issue. Don't give him such a long deal, as he's done so little for you. But yeah, those birds are coming home to roost now. So Yeah, he's got to go soon, though. You've got to think a couple of bad losses in the SEC this year, and that might be it for him. The only other thing of note, there was a very, very scary moment in this game. Safety, Cam Kinchens, I mentioned him. Maybe the best safety in the country. Probably is the best safety in the country, I would say. Or at least he's got a good argument for him. He went down after a tackle, and he went rigid. And I mean rigid. He didn't move. He was not moving a muscle. He was on the field for ages. They had to take him off on a stretcher. He still wasn't moving. He was talking, but there was nothing there whatsoever. And I was absolutely terrified for him at one point. But thankfully, he's been to hospital, and they did release a statement a few days ago saying that he's better, he's on the mend, and he's not meant to miss a significant amount of time. They've not exactly said what happened, but whatever it was not pretty, but thankfully it looks like he's alright, so we should see Cam Kinchens back on the field hopefully sooner rather than later. But again, to Cristobal, to Miami, absolutely great result for you there. I will answer that question in a little bit, Mike. I've just seen that there. I will get round to it. If it's just not related to what we're talking to, I will talk about them, but we'll get there. Derek goes, Miami has some of the most fertile recruiting grounds of any CFP team. Yeah, they get tons of 5-star guys. That Florida area, you can get as many guys there as you want. Florida State do, Miami do, and then you've got a lot of smaller teams around you who can't compete against you. So, yeah, they've got a lot there. The other, the third one I wanted to put in the main group of games, again, just because it was sort of a momentous thing this week, was James Madison and Virginia. This again was another one of our pick watch games, and me and Ryan took Virginia with this. We got beaten out by a point in the end. It finished James Madison 36, Virginia 35. James Madison had 12 unanswered in the fourth quarter, so Virginia looked like they were going to win this. But James Madison showed a lot of fortitude to come from behind to win it. But the main thing here, obviously, it was UVA strong day. First game at the stadium since the shootings last year when 3 members of the team were killed. And obviously it's a very emotional day. The team played incredibly well. And the big thing, the fourth guy who got injured, Mike Collins, the running back, he came in. He got 2 touchdowns on the day, and I don't think I've seen a bigger celebration around the country ever than when he went in for his first one. Obviously, he got hurt in that event. He's come back. He's playing in honour of his fallen teammates, and results sort of be damned what's happened with that. It was kind of a wonderful thing. It felt fitting that he was able to get in the end zone twice that day, and sort of in honour of those 3 guys.
Yeah. Some things are bigger than football. I think the result, it won't bother them. No one will have left. No one will have lost a minute's sleep losing that game by 12. Like I say, the fans were just glad to have everyone there, everyone safe, everyone together, and both teams, they put on a spectacle. Like I say, it was a really good, momentous occasion, and Mac, like I say, to get in after what happened not once but twice. They're the kind of moments you live for. Like I say, to see everyone celebrating together and be really happy for him. Even the James Madison players and fans, like you say, they played their part. They were just happy to see them all out there in the end. And it was a really good game. Like I say, from a neutral standpoint, that's kind of what you wanted to see. The celebration after what happened last year and such a sour note that the season ended on.
Yeah, absolutely. And you say that they are a team who's been in transition themselves, but they really played their heart. I said actually appears we've got a Virginia fan in the building. W2F-tastic goes, oh gosh, as a Virginia fan, you all can't do that. Well, we sort of went in the pick watch because obviously it was a big day. There's a lot of emotion. Usually teams play sort of up and above when you're doing things like that, and they did. They did not let themselves down whatsoever. I watched it. It was highly charged. It was a great game. 2 teams both played their part in there, and so you just can't imagine anything like that happening ever. But for Mac to get in there twice just felt like, it felt good just to be able to see him celebrate and to be able to sort of give back there. So, but talk on the other side of the ball. I mean, James Madison. 10 wins last year. They started off 2-0 this year. I mean, they are a team who are just you think they've sort of reached a ceiling, at the start of the thing, but they just keep going and going and going. And this was a huge win for them again. You're sort of double digits down in the fourth quarter again in this sort of environment, highly charged A, team playing out of its mind, trying to get the win there. And to come back and win that shows an immense amount of fortitude for that team themselves. They just continue to surprise people week on week, and it's just annoying that they can't play for the Sun Belt at the moment.
Yeah, they set an incredibly high bar last year, not just for themselves, but for every FCS team that comes to the FBS. They've set one of the highest bars I've ever seen to basically been in contention. They would have been in a title game. And yeah, they're just picking up where they left off. They literally just look like another well-oiled machine, and not a lot's changed. And if James Madison had lost this game, no one would have batted an eyelid, because they'd have just said, end of the day, Virginia went out there, they played with emotion, they wanted to win for themselves, the friends and the family. And yeah, in the end, I think Virginia ran out of steam in the end. But James Madison, in the end, were able to pull away, like say, in that fourth, overturn the deficit, and steal what is probably one of their bigger wins in recent years, maybe even in their history. Like I said, to take down such an emotionally charged team, playing with a cause. They're playing for a cause for Virginia, like I said. James Madison weren't, like I say, it's another year where there's nothing to play for.
No.
But no, you tell them out there, because it certainly don't look like, does it? They don't look like a team that can't play for a championship. It's not like a team trying to change the rules.
Yeah, it's a Power 5 scalp on the road. I mean, again, for any G5 team, that's a big thing, regardless of who it is. And again, circumstances is even more impressive. I mean, we didn't know who the quarterback was. They found the new quarterback, Jordan McLeod. He was the Arizona transfer. I don't know if you've seen much of him being the Arizona State guy, but very impressive by him. 20 of 31, 224 yards, touchdown thrown there. Anthony Colandrea, the Virginia quarterback, he had a really good day. He threw for 377 yards on just 20 completions. Had a couple of touchdowns, one pick, but I mean, I think there's one thing maybe James Madison are going to have to look on down the way. These guys just throwing bombs on them all game, and they struggled with it, but thankfully they got the offense to keep up. But yeah, James Madison certainly a team who we're going to keep an eye out on for the season now, because they just continue to go from strength to strength. They might just, I say, win the whole thing outright. They could run the table this year. Who knows? But we're going to talk about them again later because they're in the predictions. So let us move it on. They were the three big games I sort of wanted to talk about this week. However, you've been with us now for a little while. We've changed this thing up now, so we do the big games we really want to talk about. Then we go through the upset corner, as we call it. The teams who have been upset during the week, discuss that, have a little discussion there. Then we finish off with the rest of our pick watch results, and then we go to the near upset corner. We call it the survivors corner. If you are able to pull through a game, but only just if you're given a worry, and that section's very heavy this week. There are a lot of teams who got upset or nearly upset, so we're going to start straight up with the upsets. And I mean, one of the big ones, and I didn't notice this initially on the schedule, right, but the Bayou Bucket took place this week. That's obviously the Rice-Houston rivalry, and Houston have dominated this for years. I think it's been 12 years since Rice last won this. That stretches back 7 iterations of the event. Rice have done nothing. Obviously, they're a new American team just come across from the CUSA. Houston just gone up to the Big 12, so this is technically Power 5 on Group of 5 at this moment. And we wondered what sort of an effect JT Daniels would have at Rice. They went and beat them. It took double overtime, but 43-41 winners, Rice take home the Bayou Bucket. And I mean, JT Daniels shredded them in this one. I mean, he had over 400 yards on the day. I can't remember how many exactly. It was just a shade over. He was 28 of 42, 401 yards, 3 touchdowns. Did throw a pick, but didn't really matter in the end. And I mean, they did get shredded apart on defense, but we know what Houston's all about. Houston were in big bother in this game. It was 28-7 at halftime to Rice. Houston scored 21 unanswered in the fourth. There were no points in the third. I mean, it looked like Rice were camped into it. Houston made this big, epic comeback, and then it goes to double overtime. And Rice, despite giving all that up, they both score a touchdown on the first drive of overtime. Then Rice get a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. Houston get a touchdown, but can't get the 2-point conversion to keep it level. I mean, this is a huge upset, really, in the grand scheme of things. Only it's a Group of 5 Power 5, but this is a one-way rivalry, which has really not even been close in recent years. And JT, hey, he did his job. He shined. Good for him.
What is it with Houston in overtime? They went to overtime twice last season. I'm pretty sure the Cougars, maybe even 3 times. You will not find many more Power 5 schools that go into overtime on Houston Cougars. It's been like 4 times in the last 2.5 years. And it's funny because we said last week, what will they look like without Clayton Tune? And we both said, they'll be crap. And you know what? We were not wrong. Like I say, he was the heart and soul of that team. The guys like him, Tank Dell and that are gone. And they're just struggling. They've got no identity. Like I say, they were getting blown out at the half by a team that has not been in this rivalry for nearly a decade. And JT Daniels, we know what he is, but we also know that he was an unknown fact going into this season. He's a journeyman. Would he come here and live up to expectations, go out of his college career with a bit of glory, or would he just fade away into non-existence? He was the early one. Like I say, he came in, put the Rice team on his shoulders, and went out there, and he got to work. Like I say, and he diced through that Cougars defence. And in the end, the second half, they really let it slip, and they almost blew it, Rice. They did everything in their power to lose that game. But with how the overtime rules work, going tit for tat, strike for strike, Rice stood tall, got a 2-point, put so much pressure on Houston knowing they had to, and in the end Houston crumbled. I say, and it was a huge loss for the Cougars, but for the Rice Owls, that would probably be the biggest win of the season. But like I say, they really could make a bowl game after being like pretty irrelevant for the last few years.
I know, that's huge for them. I mean, that was one they would not have been expecting to... Well, obviously, you go in expecting. I think deep down you kind of know, yeah, we're probably not going to win this one, but, you know, to go out there and do what they did was just... That's elite mentality. Like, to give up... To not score a single point in the second half and give up 3 touchdowns in the fourth, and to then come back and then just score successive touchdowns with a 2-point conversion on the second in overtime. Elite mentality. And Houston are going to be Houston, right? Offense, good. Donovan Smith, the new quarterback, he had 260 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did throw a pick, but he had 3 rushing touchdowns on the ground. So he's got a little bit about him there, but was not to be upstaged by JT. So, you know, Rice, absolutely massive upset at this point. And it wasn't, you know, it was just topsy-turvy all over the place. You thought they were going to win for so long, and they played so well. But the defense for both these teams has got to get better. I just look at all the stats across the board here. They're all in the purple. They're all very low percentile what got off. So, yeah, better things in the future for them. Just got a few bits to go through first. Derek goes... I know this is a CFB video, but how about them Lions getting my ski mask out? Wait, I think we've all bought ski masks over here, so, you know, it's you're not on your own. We'll all be rocking the blue ski mask on Sunday. He goes, there's a lot of talent coming out of the sub-football conference. I believe there is more talent than ever to go around. Oh, the FCS. Oh, God, absolutely. And actually, hopefully, in the next week or so, we're going to be doing a show on the FCS with someone who's incredibly knowledgeable about it. So I will get that set up as soon as I can. Come tune in. You'll get to hear about some of that FCS talent if you want to. He also goes, we could see 18 to 20 quarterbacks in next year's draft. I mean, quickly, we'll just stop off here, right? I mean, we could see a damn load of quarterbacks last year. You know, just take Williams and May out of the equation. Shadur is now in the equation. Ewers is now in the equation. You've got Riley Leonard, who's out there slinging his thing for Duke. You've got... You know, Jordan Travis, KJ Jefferson, Sam Hartman, all these guys. It could actually be the deepest class in a very, very long time for quarterback, and like some really damn good ones, even outside of them top 2.
Yeah, it's going to be weird because, let's say, you might see the most quarterbacks drafted for a number of years. The gap between them Some of them, like I say, is massive. Between some of them, it's non-existent. And hitting on the right one is going to be like just shut your eyes and throw a dart. Like you say, the ones we think are going to be nailed on, like Drake May, Caleb Williams, could be absolute busts. Like you say, guys like Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, even could be like a first rounder. They could be the next Joe Burrow for all we know. So trying to evaluate and draft from these guys next year, I would not want to be a scout or a GM. If you get the wrong one and the one that just goes behind you, like I say, turns into a star, you're going to end up with egg on your face. But yeah, you've got 15 guys that could probably be drafted between, I don't know, rounds 1 and 3. It's going to be pretty crazy. They're going to have to come off the board really quickly.
Oh god, yeah. Quarterback breakdowns are going to be huge next year because there's just so many of them. W2F-tastic goes, I need to go back and watch that Rice game. I figured that was a lost cause. I mean, I think a lot of people did, and then they turned people around there. Rice cost Vegas some dollar this weekend, not like Colorado. They have cost Vegas big dollar. Well, they're not going to cost Vegas big dollar much longer because everything has been flipped with Colorado now. They're favourites for just about everything this year at the minute, so they're not going to be done by them again. Derek also goes, speaking of journeyman, how long has Bo Nix played? How much eligibility does the guy have left? He's been playing like 6 years. I think Bo Nix is year 5, isn't he?
Yeah, I think other than a COVID year, he might be done.
Yeah, I think he's done. This is at least year 5, possibly year 6 for him. He's been going forever, so he will declare this year. Derek goes, does the team have to go for 2 in the second overtime, or is it the third? It is 2 onwards, isn't it? I think.
2, yeah. After the first period, yeah, every touchdown has to be 2-point conversion.
Yeah. So he goes, franchise QBs are like spin on a roulette wheel. Hey, who knows? This year, they might absolutely be. Damn right, just bear with me. Right, let's move it on. I was just checking Twitch to see if we've got anything there, but we've got a lot more games to talk about, and I'll talk about this very quick. So, this team were in the upset corner last week because they upset Power 5 opposition. They're in the upset corner this week because they themselves got upset by FCS opposition. Of course, talking about Northern Illinois, now, maybe to call Boston College Power 5 is a little ingratiate at the minute. They're not really, but you go and beat Boston College on their own patch last week, Ryan. Big win for the MAC team there. And then you get beaten by your FCS in-state rivals. And Rocky Lombardi, the quarterback we all know and love. You got good Rocky Lombardi last week. This year you got bad Rocky Lombardi, who tossed 3 picks and cost his team the game by throwing so many picks in there. The MAC is just a weird place at the moment. Their team's in it. This is not how you follow up a big victory over Boston College by going and losing to Southern Illinois.
No. And I like the Salyukas. I've watched them before because I love the FCS. They're a good side, but God, this makes Boston College look even worse. It really does not do them any favours, is it, when your conqueror then gets upset? But yeah, this feels like a total hangover. Like I say, still riding high from taking down BC, and they looked past Southern Illinois. Probably took them a little bit too light, like you say, was not their best at races. And yeah, get upset themselves, but it's also another great result, like you say, for the Salyukas, like you say, to then take their in-state pride as well. So now they're top dog in Illinois, so yeah, not good by NAU. Like I say, it's not how you cover yourselves in glory after one of your bigger wins the last few years to then quickly fall very short. And yeah, Rocky Lombardi will never want to forget last week, but he'll want to forget this weekend as quickly as possible and move on. They'll try steady the ship this week.
Yeah, absolutely they will. And this was just not a good week for the MAC. So many of the MAC teams are on our upset or near upset list, but you talk about, you watch a lot of FCS. There's another FCS team who pushed aside MAC opposition this week. The Fordham Rams took down Buffalo in a 40-37. This was a high scoring affair. I only ended up watching the highlights of this because I couldn't watch the whole thing. I wish I got to see it. I thought Buffalo looked pretty good the other week when they got beaten. Oh God, I can't remember who they were playing, but it was a good side. I thought Buffalo looked really good. Fordham come into their house and lay 40 down on them. The quarterback, CJ Montez, 309 yards and 5 touchdowns. No picks on the day. The running back, Julius Lothridge, 20 carries, 106 yards. He's gone at 5 yards per carry. Receivers, MJ Wright, 7 receptions, 159 yards, averaging just a measly 23 yards per catch. He got a touchdown. Mackay Felton got 2 on 6 receptions for 66. Garrett Cody, 1 for 53 there. And then on Buffalo's side, I mean, Cole Snyder, he did all right. 265 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Marlon Johnson, the receiver, had 105 yards and 2 touchdowns on the day. This was an offensive showing, Rye, but very offensive for the fans of Buffalo, who would not have been expecting. The Bulls were taken down by the Rams.
It's funny because I remember saying our last year's pre-draft, and I did Tim Demora, the Fordham quarterback, one of the greatest FCS quarterbacks last decade. And he left, obviously, he actually got picked up, I think, by an NFL team. And then they just go out again, and they're just a powerhouse for them. The Rams just play fantastic offensive football. And they're going to be a force to reckon with again in the FCS playoffs this year. Or they should be. They're a really well-coached, well-driven side. And they rack up a lot of yardage, a lot of points. That is nothing new for them. But yeah, Buffalo got dragged into a shootout, and in the end, they could just could not keep pace with them. Like I said, Buffalo a week ago looked perfectly fine. This week, got dragged into a place they didn't want to be, and they got outlasted by the Rams. So, what a week for the FCS. Like I say, just in general this weekend, number of scalps and a number of very close calls too.
It was Wisconsin that were playing last week. That's what I was just for a good chunk of that game. They looked competitive against Wisconsin, and then you let Fordham come and drop 40 on you. It just again defies logic. But this was a rough week. But as was said earlier, there's a lot of talent in the FCS now. A lot of these teams, the gaps are not so big. I mean, there are other FCS teams we're going to talk about in the near upset. So we'll come back to this. We'll circle back round to this at the end and talk about them. But God, there's been some great ones on there. Lisa De Lorenzo goes, is Bo that old? Bo's 23. I think he's going to be 24 by the time he declares. So he's not young. Derek goes, because they're talking about Bo getting beaten out by Malik Willis, or Malik Willis getting beaten out by Bo. When he goes, I bet 1 out of 100 people can't tell you which state Malik Willis's college was in without Googling it. Well, he went to Liberty, didn't he? I don't know where Liberty is. I don't know where Liberty is. I want to say it's further down south, but that's just very. I'm not gonna. Down south is a very big area in America. That's a complete and utter cop out there on that one. And the other couple more upsets to go here. Hang on, let me get to the right. So this was a weird one. We talked. So let me just get the stats up for this game because it's absolutely incredible. And they're a team who go about getting incredible wins. I think when we did all our sort of reviews, when we did our previews for the conference teams, the ones we were able to get through, I don't think we were down more on any team. Yes, it is Virginia. It's in Lynchburg, isn't it? Lynchburg, is it? Liberty's in Lynchburg or whatever it's called, I think.
Yeah.
There was no team we looked down harder on. Not because we don't like them, but just because of the amount of talent they lose. And, the bad space they're in terms of recruiting and that. The Old Dominion Monarchs didn't think they were really going to do much this year. Didn't think they were going to win many games. Took down the Louisiana Raging Cajuns this week. 38-31, which was a big upset. Because we said, Old Dominion, they can't recruit because of the area they're in. They're a small school. They have issues. They've lost so many of their best players. This is a hell of a win for them, but just get this. So, anyone who's listened to this show for an amount of time knows I go on about Old Dominion's win over Virginia Tech last year. They had the 2% post-game win expectancy. They shouldn't have won the game. They love to win games they shouldn't win. So get this right. They had 400 yards of offense in this game. That doesn't include a 100-yard return touchdown they had in this one. So they had basically 500 yards of offense in this game. Their team was on the field for 22 minutes. Louisiana won the time of possession battle 38-22, and Old Dominion put up 400 yards in 22 minutes, and in 4 kickoffs, they gave up over 100 yards. Louisiana did. We know what this Louisiana team are. They're good on offense. They were awful on defense last year, but I mean, that's shocking. This is a huge win for Old Dominion, but they put up 38 points, and 38 points and 400 yards of offense, nearly 500 with the returns in 22 minutes. Crazy.
Yeah. Explosive plays, yards, yak. Like I say, bombs, long runs. They really went to town with what they had to work with. Like I say, the 16 more minutes, like I say, and such little produced or such little stopped. You've got to wonder, like I say, what were they doing with all that extra time? Because they were not anywhere in the game. It's pretty embarrassing that to have the ball so long and to get beaten and your defense get torched so badly. Like I said, the defense was literally coming on and off so quickly because they were conceding points so quickly as well. So it's not even like the defense was tired. They were just making mistakes and goals were getting exploited. So yeah, I've never been high on the Monarchs. But no, they really did make a statement. Like I say, held the ball such a short time, but really did go to work. Like I say, and in the end, just they rolled over a team, just dropped heavy on them.
Yeah, and I mean, DeSormu, who's the head coach there, he's obviously taken over the reins from Billy Napier, and I mean, he's not going to be on the longest leash in the world, given how much Napier did for that program. They were winning some belts not so long ago with all these great players. I mean, last year was meh for them. There's a lot of, we talked about it in the Sunbelt previews, a lot of teams who are gunning for those top spots in there. They can't afford losses like this. He can't afford losses like this, or his job's going to be on the line sooner rather than later.
Yeah, this is one of those kind of wins that can tip the balance in your against you or for you when it comes to deciding whether they're going to keep your team. So I'm pretty sure he's going to hear about this in future, especially if he's going to get let go. This will be one of the reasons why.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not looking good for Louisiana, but well done to the Monarchs. I do have a soft spot for them, given where they're at, how hard it is for them. I always appreciate when they're able to win a game. So good for them. All that offense in such a short amount of time. Good for you. Derek goes, you guys going to touch on the MSU Mel Tucker situation. We opened up the show with that, actually, Derek. That was the first thing we talked about. We had that in our news section, so you can always go back and have a listen to that at the start. But we did spend some time on that one there, and on Tez Walker and the UNC situation and the Pac-12 stuff as well. So, we started on that at the start of the show. The other one, I've got one more left on the upset one, and this was the biggest one of them all, and without using a bad level Ash pun here, the Vandals went in and vandalized Nevada. We're talking FCS teams, Ryan. Idaho, 33-6. I mean, Nevada lost to Incarnate Word last year, lost to the FCS, but at least that was a high-scoring game. In this one, they got trolloped, both sides of the ball. Idaho put down nearly 500 yards of offense on them, 150 on the ground, 313 through the air, averaged 8 yards per play on the ground. They beat them by nearly, 8 minutes on the time of possession there, and I just don't know what it is with Nevada. But they look really bad at the minute. You thought they were just starting to turn the corner with their guy, with Ken there. And, I mean, Idaho just come in and absolutely battered them.
Idaho, as well, are a bad FCS team. They're not even a good FCS team. This is one of the worst losses I've seen in years. It's truly embarrassing. It's not like if you lose to Montana State or Montana or William and Mary or North Dakota State, do you know what? Fair enough. Like I say, because they're a credible team that is pretty much on the precipice of an FBS. Idaho Vandals, they're at sea in the FCS. Not even in the playoff picture in recent years. So yeah, to come in and get battered, 27 points. Like I said, that honestly, if I was a fan, I'd have been calling for the coach to be fired probably there and then. Like I said, we thought Nevada as well, but kind of starting to maybe make some inroads. Could be about to like just make some progress after a few bumpy years, but yeah, the handbrake's been proper emergency stop. That is, pump the brakes on anything. We really don't know anything about them.
They've just not recovered from like the losses in the draft a year ago, have they? Lose the quarterback, you lose Cole Turner, you lose all these terrific guys, and even then over this year you've lost like the likes of Toa Tower, the last few good guys they had left. They're reeling at the minute, and they're really struggling. So bad times for Nevada, great for Idaho. 3 big upset wins for FCS teams this week, so good on them. Let's move it on to the pick watch ones now. We've already been through 2 of them, so we've got 8 to quickly go through here, but we're going to start off at the top. What could have been, Ryan? The Ole Miss Rebels against the Tulane Green Wave. Now this ends 37-20 in favour of Ole Miss, but they didn't deserve that scoreline. Tulane, big news before the game. Michael Pratt, star quarterback, absolute stud, misses the game because he had a knee injury, I think it was. I think he's going to be alright for next week, or if not the week after. It's not too far, but you throw in Kai Horton, Brett's favourite player in the world, if he's listening. It's his first start in a while. And he goes out there, and for the first half, this is the most competitive game of football ever. They're 17-10 up at the half. Hell, it's 17 all going into the fourth quarter. The defence just fought so hard and so well on this. I mean, Kai made the throws he needed to. He was only 15 of 37. He got 231 yards, touchdown and a pick as well. But I think in the second half, Ole Miss kind of woke up and their D-line just wrecked him and everything around him. But you can't help but feel if Pratt was playing, the upset was on here, Ryan. Tulane, they lost by 17, but they should be incredibly proud of themselves after this. They did themselves a whole world of good with this performance.
And that's why I said last week I didn't pick Tulane, because I saw Pratt, like you say, had that knee injury last week, and I thought the status was uncertain. But I am really regretting picking Ole Miss to make the title game. Sheesh, they do not look good from 2 weeks. I don't care what anyone tells me. They did not play well. Like I say, they were just fortunate to come up to against a team that was playing his fairly inexperienced backup quarterback. I agree. Michael Pratt's in this team. They maybe get to overtime. They do not lose by like that margin. Like I say, Ole Miss can count themselves really lucky, like I say, because they were really sloppy until in the end they pulled away. Like I say, Jackson Dart, I'm still not enamoured with him. I just don't see what people see in him. It's just not the world beater for me. So yeah, Ole Miss dodged a bullet here. What could have been if Tulane were at full strength would have been a way more interesting end. In the end, it kind of just petered out and it's disappointing. But yeah, Tulane prove that they are probably still the best of the rest of G5. Even in a loss, it does not hurt their credentials whatsoever.
Well, no, I think it was the pick six at the end, wasn't it, that did it? I mean, in the fourth quarter, they score a touchdown, then immediately he throws a pick six. That's 14 points then and there, and it's like that. It's only a 3-point game before that. It's so close. And like I say, that D-line of Tulane, Quinshon Junkins averaged 2.7 yards per carry. He's one of the best running backs in college football. He has done it to nearly every SEC team going. Good or bad, he has absolutely obliterated them. He could get nothing going in this game, and it wasn't on him. He was trying his hardest, but they just plugged the gaps well. They were scrapping, they were fighting, and in the end, it was that missed D-line that did it. I mean, just how much pressure they were able to get on Kai, unsettle him, stop the run game in the second half. And I mean, for me, that was literally the only difference between these two teams, that D-line.
Yeah, one got to the quarterback and was able to just disrupt rhythm and take them out of their stride.
Yeah, exactly. And in Ole Miss's case, Dart had time, but I'm still not impressed with him. I'm with you. I just don't think he's that. I know he got knocked out for one play. Spencer Sanders came in. But I don't like any of the three. Is it Will Howard, the other one there as well? I just don't think they have a good quarterback, really. I'm with you. I don't think they're going to do much in the SEC if they play like that. Plucky underdogs Tulane can do that to them, then bigger teams are going to have their way. But well done, Tulane. They didn't deserve that, but, unfortunate for them. Moving on, I got this one right. Washington State did the double over Wisconsin, and I mean, not been a good start for Luke Fickell and Wisconsin. I mean, they did well the other week, but they struggled against Buffalo. Like I said, they may have had a big victory margin in the end, but it took them ages to pull away. Washington State, I really love them in this game. First half especially, they were great. They petered out a little in the second, but they were 24-9 up at the half. Cameron Ward playing amazing. 20 of 32, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns for him on the day. Wisconsin just, I don't know what it is, but Tanner Mordecai just doesn't look right. I mean, he had a good game on the scheme of things. 25 of 40, 278 yards, touchdown for him, but Braylon Allen, 7 carries, 20 yards. Ches Malusi, 12 carries, 49 yards. Like, averaging about 3.5 yards per carry between them. That ground game, which Wisconsin are good at, I don't know what it is. Washington State are not that particularly that good against the run, but this is twice they've been done over now, and they've been favoured in both these games, but I believed in Washington State. They delivered, but there's something not right with this Wisconsin team, is there? They should be good. They've got 2 excellent running backs, and now they've got an excellent quarterback. But offense, something smells, doesn't it, Rye?
Now I'm realising now Tanner Mordecai is not an excellent quarterback. He was just in a quarterback-friendly air raid scheme at SMU. I think I've been fooled. I think that scheme and those receivers and how much freedom he had to throw the ball flattered him. Wisconsin just don't play that offense. They don't fit. It doesn't fit in Wisconsin. Like I say, their run game potentially still got a top 5 duo in the nation. Just stopped. Malusi and Braylon Allen a week ago were dominating. This week, they didn't get nothing going at all. And yeah, that Washington State D-line should not be allowed to do that. Or Wisconsin O-line and their run game. Yeah, it's bad. 1-1, but Wisconsin, like I said, Luke Fickell and Mordecai, it does not fill you with confidence at all this year. Like I say, and I had such high hopes for Wisconsin this year. It's another team I'm already regretting that I've let it fool me. I don't think Tanner's going to have a good year at all.
They're going to have trouble when the schedule starts in the Big Ten. I know that much for sure. Against even some of maybe the smaller teams, they're going to have issues. But, we were talking about the depth of quarterbacks earlier. No one mentions Cameron Ward. stood at Incarnate Word. Had a decent enough season last year. He started off hot this year. He's another who's going to be in the quarterback conversations. He's just going to get completely missed. But Cameron's one of my favourite quarterbacks here. So the depth of quarterback grows even further. Derek goes, you guys think what Dion did at Colorado could be the norm with a big name coach bringing 80 players and turning the roster over completely? This feels unique, doesn't it? We'll quickly talk about Colorado, but this feels unique, doesn't it? I don't think this could ever be done again. It feels like Dion, his charisma, how he brings... He's the only guy who could talk this much with his mouth and back it up. I don't think many other players could do that in this situation.
Yeah. Not even enough coaches have that kind of pull that can just make an entire team, the best players up and go with, and all the players that can't fit or won't fit are scared and enter the portal. Dion's an enigma. Like I said, there's been guys before him and there'll be guys like him, but it has to be an ex-player. It can only be someone with such a chip on the shoulder and runs their mouth consistently, like an Antonio Brown, like a Richard Sherman. Like, if they get into coaching and they're going to be super fucking arrogant and they're going to call people out on it and consistently not stop talking. And also it helps if you've got 4 kids that play football.
I was about to say, your son's one of the best quarterbacks in college football. One of your other sons is probably one of the best linebackers in college football. It helps, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's such a weird dynamic because I've learned after 2 weeks, that Dion needs Shedeur. And I genuinely believe that. Shedeur does not need Dion. Shedeur could be the quarterback in bloody Georgia, in Alabama. He does not need his dad. And I do not want to see his dad interfere, especially when he goes pro. I do not want him trying to influence him at all. I think they've got such an odd dynamic. He ranked. There's a post on Instagram where he's ranking his children how well he likes them. I
Really?
think 5 last at like 5. Like he's made such an ultra competitive family, and he's pit them all against one another, that this is just like a 1 in a million case, the Sanders family. And don't get me wrong, I think Deion Sanders is going to have nothing but success, and his children will too. The way he goes about it is not for a lot of people, but it will garner results. But yeah, it's not sustainable in some facet.
No, and just word of warning to any coach who's going up against them, don't badmouth Dion. I mean, that's the first thing Shador said after the Nebraska game. Matt Rule mouthing off, talking about his dad, so he went out there with a chip on it. Just don't give them any more chips. Like, they've got that many chips at this point. You just don't rev them up anymore, otherwise they'll explode and they will just absolutely destroy you, which is what they did. So,
in 2-3 years, Deion Sanders is the head coach in the NFL.
Yeah.
But it's written in the stars, he is going to the NFL.
But to tell you how unique this is, just to go back to it, Derek, look at what Ed Reed did at Bethune-Cookman. He didn't last there a week. He went there with all this fanfare, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and within a week he bailed. Because he's got them.
No facility.
Yeah.
He said he couldn't do what he wanted.
No.
But he went to a team and thought, I can take this little fledgling because I'm a big superstar and everyone loves me.
Yeah.
And he got there and campus and probably thought, oh, actually, no, this is going to take a little bit more work because they don't really have great facilities.
Yeah.
They have lack of talent. And I don't have any talent to bring with me because I've never coached anyone in my life. Deion Sanders has.
Yeah. So there will be many more Ed Reeds than there will be Deion Sanders. So hopefully that answers that one there. Right, let's move it on. Still got a few games to talk about here. Toilet Bowl. Iowa teams. I'm actually glad you talked me into this one, right? Because I was considering just going state for the hell of it here, but you did bring me round to the fact that Iowa, the defense is just always really good, and it turns out at the end of the day, they needed the defense to be good in this because I think the defense scored more points than the offense. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but this ends up 20 points to 13 to Iowa. Exactly what we thought it would be. It would be a mess. Iowa State obviously got a freshman at quarterback, Rocco Becht. I mean, he was okay. Just over 50%. Yeah, 203 yards, touchdown, did throw a pick. Cade, 12 of 22, 123 yards and 1 interception. And why he keeps mouthing off about Michigan while he's putting up such mid-numbers at their opposition in the Big Ten, I don't know. That's just something that's not going to go down well. He's been very mouthy. It's not gone well. This was just a rotten game. And again, Iowa's defense needs to score the points to win them games, because without it, Iowa State would have won this.
Yeah. It was another case of, like, just bad Kirk Ferentz football. It's so ugly. Like you say, Cashco Santos with a pick 6. Cooper DeJean again, all over the field. And also everyone now realises he's an elite punt returner. The guy, I think, is going in the first round. He's such a versatile defender, and he is the leader. That Iowa secondary is just reloaded again, despite losing Moss, Merriweather the safety, and Van Ness. It has not skipped a beat. It's just full of dogs. And like I say, Kyle Bantamari, yeah, he's blessed with another good defense again. But yeah, just shut up. Like I say, until like your Iowa offense actually looks better with you in it, I'd probably stop running my mouth, because it doesn't look any better right now than it did with, I can't remember the tall, skinny, ginger kid's name from last year, the quarterback. It was terrible.
Oh, JJ. Oh no, sorry.
No.
Petrus.
Yeah, Spencer Petrus. You don't look no better right now, so I'll pipe it out.
I know. I don't know if they do play Michigan this year, but if they do, Michigan will absolutely kill them. It's like it's going to be even worse than last year, probably. So yeah, hush down. Few more. Marshall finally got their ass in order. We both had them here over East Carolina, 31-13 winners. However, they struggled by Albany last week, and for 3 quarters they were losing 13-10 in this one, and I was incredibly worried. But eventually, Rasheen Ali finally woke up. Their star running back, he reeled off 3 touchdowns, 18 carries, 85 yards, 3 for him. He's back where we want it to be. Finally, hopefully, seems like Marshall have woken up now after a really slow, sluggish start against Albany and East Carolina to start with.
Yeah, worrying. 2 really sloppy performances, and back-to-back weeks, Rasheen Ali digging them out of hole. Guy's like already got like 4 or 5 touchdowns. He's already got like 210 yards or something. he's just putting them on his back, innit? Until they wake up, he's just carrying them. But yeah, it's not the sign of a successful football team. They're just starting way too slow, especially in first halves. They look bad.
Yeah. Yeah, Marshall I'm worried about now. I worry about my predictions for them. But hopefully they're out this slump now and they're done with this. That's fine. Brent goes, those are the same stats he was putting up at Michigan, laughy face. Yeah. Cade's lost any... Cade was beloved by Michigan fans for the most part. They appreciated him getting to the first playoffs. He has burned all that goodwill with them now in like 6 months. It's a shame to see that he's been so mouthy with it. Temple and Rutgers, we don't need to talk about that because I was the only one who picked Temple. Temple just got outplayed. That ended up 36-7 to Rutgers. So yeah, Temple, you're on my bad list this week. Purdue, shocked week 1 by Fresno State at home. Went on the road to Virginia Tech. Won 24-17. I have to say, Rye, Hudson Card, we talk about it. He's one of the perfect fits we feel for a team in this offseason from a QB in the portal. He's doing well. Offense ain't the problem. They put up 35 points week 1. He gets another 248 yards this week. He's not turning the ball over, which is really good. He had a touchdown on the ground as well. Purdue, they're looking a lot better. The defense was awful week 1. They got a lot better this week. Purdue, hopefully, they're back where they want to be now. But Card looks inspired signing for them.
Yep. So far, he's made no issues. He's played fine in a win, fine in a loss. Yeah, they're going to live and die by how good or bad that defense is. I said this week it was okay. Last week, it sucked. They look like a steady 7-8 win team. Should hopefully make a bowl game, win a bowl game. But yeah, it was never going to be the team where Hudson Card was going to just arrive, announce himself to the nation. I think he just wanted to go somewhere comfortable, play football, especially it was never going to be easy in the post-Jeff Bram era. Like I said, but yeah, I like him. I picked him, I want to watch him. I kind of now wish he'd gone to somewhere with a little bit more of a flashy offense, maybe somewhere a little bit more where he could express himself. It's probably not in a place to be, but yeah. Like I said, he'll probably be fine steady this year. I don't know what's going to happen going forward. Especially eligibility. I imagine he'll probably stay or maybe go somewhere else.
With this quarterback class this year, anyone who's not...
He's never going to go for this class.
Anyone who's still got questions will not go this year. There'll be so many guys who were thinking about it, who are like, nope, not even trying. We'll wait till next year. Because that's a lot more...
If he gets a full season of tape under his belt and plays well, see where he is next year if he stays at Purdue.
Exactly. Derek about Iowa goes, they had 3 high draft picks, Van Ness, Jack Campbell, Laporta. How do you not win a Big Ten with those studs? How do you not? Then you've got secondary. Riley Moss is in there. Cooper DeJean is on there. It's just studs. You only need a Purdue level offense to win the Big Ten with that sort of defense. That's all you need, and they couldn't even muster that. They couldn't even get halfway to muster in that. Yes, Brent, we both picked Temple. It was not good on ours. I'm not going to make that mistake again. Right, one team I quickly want to talk about because they are not doing well this year, and I've put a lot of stock into them this season, and they let me down. The Yukon Huskies, 0-2 on the season. I think it was a sweep. No, one person bet Georgia State. I think it was James who did. Rest of us put our stock into Yukon this weekend. Blown out by Georgia State, 35-14. And they only scored their 14 points in the fourth quarter. This game was dead and buried before it had any semblance of being good. I notice that they've gone to Taquan Roberson now, the Penn State reject at quarterback. He had 216 yards, 2 touchdowns, pick on the day. Couldn't run the ball to save their lives. You know what, Georgia State I've got to give credit to. They did both. Granger threw for 144 yards and a touchdown. He ran for 142 yards and a touchdown. They had another 100-yard rusher, Marcus Carroll, who got 3 touchdowns there. Georgia State throttled UConn. I don't know what's up with them this year. They've just not woken up yet. And if they don't wake up soon, they could go back to being the laughing stock of old. They should be winning these games.
Yeah, they're slipping back. Old habits die hard. And they're slipping back to their old ways, like you say. Garbage points, garbage yards. They were getting destroyed, and they were never in this game. And yeah, Tycon Robinson wasn't enamoured with the dual threat quarterbacks at Penn State. Never managed to crack his way up the depth chart. He's come here for his redemption arc, and the train is yet to even leave the station. Like I say, it's a big name, but he's not making his presence felt. And the Huskies, like I say, 0-2, not looking good to start the year.
No, they are poor, and oh god. Yeah, UConn, you're on my list. I'm not going for you for a while. And then we finished off. I mean, you told me to bet this way. You bet against your own team. Oklahoma State beat Arizona State 27-15. I mean, they look somewhat competitive. I mean, Jaden Rashada looks good. I will say that. For a freshman, he looks decent. You got a bit of glimpse of hope there, don't you?
You looked good last week. This week, he looked like a true freshman. And that's why I didn't back them. Because I knew as soon as he plays a defence that is average in the Power 5, he'd come unstuck. And he did. And he got like 160 yards. Could not move the ball down the field. Again, Cam Scatabo, our FCS transfer quarterback, was still pretty much the guy to go to. For like 70 yards a touchdown. He looks like another Valaday. They just do so well at picking up portal running backs. We just got a good neck for it. But yeah, we're going to have a lot of up and downs with Jaden Rashada. I expect at some point he'll be benched for Trenton Bourget or for, say, Drew Pine when he gets healthy. But yeah, he looked like a freshman this week, and that's why I didn't pick them. I knew he'd struggle. So yeah, it's going to be a rough year for Kenny Dillingham. The transition period for the Sun Devils. But yeah. Oklahoma State were average. Like I say, Gunnar Gundy, pretty sure that's the head coach's son, isn't it? Mike Gundy's son. They've been playing like 3 quarterbacks last week and this week. Yeah. They don't know what's going on there yet, but they were just lucky. They came up against the Sun Devils that are just not very good right now.
No, they are not. Derek, I apologise for screwing you on the lines over-under. I was dead set that they were going over. If Travis Kelce had have played, maybe they would have, but no one thought that game was going under, so I wasn't on my own. But I apologise regardless for screwing you on the over-under. I don't know what it is for the Seahawks yet, but just bet the opposite of whatever I say. You'll be fine. Right, that's the Pick Watchers, and finishing off, we've got the Survivors Corner. So this is what we give to the teams who, by the hairs of their chinny chin chin, avoid an upset. And there are teams from all over this week. I'll go through some of these quicker. I'll stay on some of them, but Utah, 20-13 winners over Baylor. They snuck out of this by the hair of their chinny chin chin. They were losing for most of this game. Baylor, who had just been absolutely railroaded the week before by Texas Tech, then suddenly decide that they want... Texas State, sorry, my apologies to JG Kinney. But in this game, Utah looked useless. I mean, they had to put up 14 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to win this game. I mean, for what the hell happened to them? They got nothing in the passing game. They relied on Jaquindon Jackson. He got about 130 yards in this game on the ground, but Utah looks so poor this week after that win against Florida, and Baylor looks surprisingly good. Was it just a case of, they were rebounding off that bad loss, trying to play harder, or were Utah just that bad? Because I didn't think they looked good.
A bit of both. Like, bear in mind, Baylor lost their quarterback then last week, didn't they? Didn't Chapman out for the year too, and this was their backup.
And the new one threw 2 picks.
Yeah, and it feels like I say, it's a backup, like say, that isn't ready. And Utah, oh God, does Cam Rising need to hurry up and get back? Otherwise, Utah are winning nothing. They will not be in the Pac-12 title game. It's not their fault, is it? It's Barnes in it, the backup, like say. He's just not ready. He ain't ready to command this offense. He's just not at the level that Cam is. Doesn't have the equipment yet, and it was relying heavily on Jaquindon Jackson to get it on the ground. But even their defense did not look good. They can count themselves very lucky. They squeaked past a bad Baylor team.
Yeah, and they're not on their own in the I survived by the skin of my teeth Pac-12 teams. Oregon, they were so close to getting taken down by Texas Tech. I mean, Texas Tech were another. They got upset by somebody the other week. Texas Tech were, I think, on our upset list the other week. They lost some game that they really shouldn't have. And then to come out and literally go toe-to-toe with Oregon. Because, I mean, Oregon went up, 15-7, like first quarter, really thinking, oh yeah, they're done for here. Texas Tech get 14 unanswered in the third quarter, take the lead. Oregon have to put down 20 in the fourth quarter. Bearing in mind that Tyler Schuff, the Texas Tech QB, threw 3 picks in this game. He ran for 100 yards, threw for 3 touchdowns. I mean, Bo Nix had 360 yards and 2 touchdowns, but no run game. They were playing from behind, and it all ended, I think it was on a pick 6 in this one, when Texas Tech were driving. All they needed was a field goal to win this game, and he threw a pick 6, or he threw a pick and they got a touchdown off it. It was one of those, but Oregon should have lost this. And again, just did not look like themselves. The offense was there, but the defense, it got torched by Tyler Shaw, even though they picked him 3 times.
Yeah. What's funny is Tyler Shuck used to be the Oregon quarterback. I'm pretty sure Oregon came from. So this was a full circle. And Tyler would get 3 touchdowns, but 3 picks. Texas Tech, they live and die by the quarterback. Tyler can be really good at times, and at times, like I say, he has a complete meltdown. But yeah, Oregon, they're a one-man team. Oregon play well and win. When Bo Nix plays well, they win. If Bo Nix ever has a bad week, like I say, no run game whatsoever to lean on. Dye's gone. CJ Vidal's gone. The guys of the last 2-3 years that could get it done on the ground for Oregon, they're gone. Their running back room is weak. Their run game, their run scheme is not good. Like I say, it's a pretty one-dimensional offense, I think. Like I say, and it will only go as far as Bo takes them, which is probably great for his draft stock. I say he carried him, but yeah, the defense, it stunk.
Yeah. You feel like when they come up against a Washington or a USC, they're in bother.
In trouble.
Because those teams, I mean, USC have the same problem. That could be like 60-60, that game could be. But Washington, certainly, they'll have major issues.
If Bo Nix is stopped, Oregon are cooked.
Yeah, and that's going to be the big problem for them. So Texas Tech, fair play, played well. Oregon, lucky boys. Even luckier, UNC. I mean, the Atlantic Coastal this year is a mess. Clemson have already lost. UNC nearly got taken down, and once again, it was App State. Remember, they had that 124-point banger last year, 63-61. They really shouldn't have won that game. It took them double overtime to get rid of the Mountaineers this time round. And I tell you what, App State, I don't know what it is, but every time they play their big rivals, something just comes out in them that brings out some kind of fire and spark. 'Cause you can guarantee they'll get beaten by some nobody next week now. But in this one, Nate Noel, he was the guy we told you to watch in this team, the running back, 127 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game. Just ran through UNC. Joey Aguiar, the quarterback, he threw a pick, but he had 275 yards, 2 touchdowns. UNC have finally found their running back, right? Since Javonte Williams and Michael Carter left a few years ago, they've struggled to have the next guy to do it. And he's not a freshman now, but I guess he'd be a sophomore. Amarian Hampton has arrived. He's been getting better and better. 26 carries, 234 yards at 9 yards per clip, and 3 touchdowns. I mean, Drake had an okay day, but Amarian saved them in this one. They've got a stud now. I know a lot was thought of him as a freshman last year. He's fulfilling his potential, and UNC have a debt of gratitude to him in this one.
Yeah, App State love the big game. They're a big game team. They just show up. UNC defense is just rank. It's just rotten in it. We saw it like a year ago. We saw it 2 years ago. Horrible team. This is why UNC ain't winning anything. They ain't winning out with Drake May. They couldn't win out with Sam Howell. They've consistently had fantastic quarterbacks, and their defense just lags behind consistently. Like I say, Hampton, every time he touched the ball, basically a first down. Drake May, like you say, was not great. He just handed off the rock. Drake May didn't need to be great for once, which is not like UNC, because Hampton just shredded App State. And yeah, they were so lucky in the end that they got dug out of a hole. Really did not deserve to win. App State didn't really deserve to lose. It's a shame there's no ties in college football because this would have definitely been a tie.
Yeah, it would have been fair as well. They need to renew this, by the way. They only had a 2-game series, and both games have been amazing. So they need to renew that going forward. So hopefully this is not the last time they play each other in the near future, because they always have bangers. But UNC, Survivor Corner, by the hairs of their chinny chin chin, they're one of the closest this year. Oh God, we've got to talk about them again, Ryan. I'm sorry, but they've technically got to go in here. FBS killers Holy Cross went to Boston College this week, and we even pontificated about it on the show last week. Would it be an upset if Holy Cross win? I think out of all of them, that's where the upset alert came. Oh, and man, did they come close. It was 31-28 to Boston College, a team who are just... They're on their way down, and even further down. I mean, Holy Cross ran all over them. So if you've heard us talk about him before, Matthew Sluka's the quarterback there. He's a big dual threat guy. He's like Garrett Schrader or someone like that. I mean, he ran for more than he threw. He threw 10 of 15 for 130. That's not bad. He ran for 131 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jordan Fuller got 109 yards, 2 touchdowns. Both of them averaging about 7.5 yards per carry on this one. And, I mean, Boston College ran the ball well as well. Quarterback Castellanos was clear on the day, 201 and 2, but they are such an awful team. And Holy Cross, they've won against their last 2 FBS opponents before this. It was nearly 3. I mean, they look really good. Boston College are a shambles. They should look good against this team. That is expected of them. That is nothing impressive. Holy Cross just ran straight through the middle of them.
Yeah, BC might have won, but they're not the winners on the day. Again, exposed completely by an FCS team. Yep, Holy Cross coming off their best ever season last year, 13-1, made the quarterfinals of the FCS playoffs. They've dominated the Patriot League for a number of years. I've watched the Crusaders for a number of years. I like Matthew Sluka. Like I say, he's probably a better rushing quarterback than he is throwing, and he put that on display. Everything I know about him, I saw. Like you say, he is a menace when he gets outside of the tackle box and outside of the hashes. He is super hard to contain. Yeah, and they just ran all over them. And may have taken a loss, but the Patriots and their fans, it just proves everything they know about. They're getting closer to like making like a really deep run in the FCS playoffs. Holy Cross are bridging the gap because they're a very small school. They're not even a powerhouse in the FCS. They're a very tiny school, but they don't play like one at all. Like I say, and yeah, they've got a really good record in the last like 4 years. They've taken down 2 FBS sides already, and they almost claimed another scalp and got hat tricks here. The Eagles, they're going nowhere quickly. Like I say, I really worry for Boston College this year.
And for a team that used to make trench players like it was no man's business, to be torn apart by a not even big FCS team down the trenches, that'll be upsetting to all those D linemen in the league of yesteryear. Will be looking, thinking, "Good God, what has gone wrong at that team?" But they were not good. Derek, I see a question. I'll ask it in a minute. We've just got a few more of these to go through. Then we'll go through some questions. Oh God, we're back to MAC again. New Hampshire. I mean, I'm learning about these teams, right? You know more, but New Hampshire went, and I was watching this very amusedly on the Hustle Belt Twitter feed. Our good friend James is all part of that. He does everything MAC, and I know he had a rotten day on Saturday because the MAC just had so many near misses and actual upsets. But the Chippewas barely beating the Wildcats, who stuck with them all game. I think it was 500 yards and 4 touchdowns the New Hampshire quarterback threw for Max Brosmer. It wasn't even like they were a balanced offense. They got 45 rushing yards. They were just slinging and slinging and slinging and slinging, whereas Central Michigan had to resort to running the ball. They had 2 100-yard rushes on the day. Burt Emanuel threw a couple of picks, which didn't help his team's cause out, but New Hampshire were another team that, I mean, God, Central Michigan aren't too bad, but the Chippewas, they nearly got beaten. They probably should have got beaten with all the turnovers and that. New Hampshire will want that one back, and that sounds crazy saying it, but they played so well on the day.
Yeah, this is going to be the year. This is the year where the FCS just really sticks into the FBS, win or lose. We're going to see, I reckon, a record amount of upsets or course upsets. New Hampshire should have won the game. No two ways about it. Like I say, they went out there, total stylistic clash. One just went through air raid, one tried to get it on the ground. And Wildcats should be upset that they lost. Like I say, they were just going chunk play after chunk play. They were scoring quickly. They were taking the ball away. They'll probably wonder how they came out of this lost game with a loss. Chippewas, on the other hand, a miracle. Like I said, that they actually managed to win this game. Played terribly. And in the end, were just so fortunate. Did not deserve to win. And it'll be a game where erase it from their mind as quickly as possible and put it right next week. But yeah, it was ugly on their side. Their defense was abysmal. They did not learn quarter after quarter. Like I say, just giving massive cushions or just letting communication, coverage issues. Guys just free, 40 yards down the field on their own. No one within a TV shot of them anywhere near. Like, criminal.
Yeah, it was absolutely awful from them. So Central Michigan lucky, but they were not on their own. Akron, 24-21 winners over Morgan State. But Morgan State should have won. It was the last drive of the game, and they were seeing timeout, and Akron forced a fumble and returned it for a touchdown. It was a return touchdown. It's a defensive touchdown that won them the game. DJ Irons got hurt early. His replacement comes in, tosses 3 picks. Morgan State winning 21-17. You're thinking big shock on the cards, and you think New Hampshire want their game back. Morgan State will want their game back more because they had it literally in their hands and fumbled it away.
Yeah, right. Sometimes you just freak things happen. You just feel sorry for a side. That would have been a huge scalp for a team like, say, Morgan State, and they're going to look at that game and always wonder, what if? What could have happened if we'd have just, got an extra 2 first downs? Probably killed the clock. But yeah, Akron. For Akron, like I say, at least they forced the game and took it away from Morgan State. They snatched it by making a good defensive play. I can respect that. Than a team that just hangs on. They went out there and instead of just rolling over and having their bellies tickled and giving up, they went out there and they stole victory from the jaws of defeat. So I can respect that from Akron. But yeah, the fact they were even in a position to almost have the game kneeled out away from them, also terrible. The MAC through 2 weeks looking stinky.
It's just, this was all over the show, and like I said, the gap is so close at the moment, and this extends over to the Mountain West. I mean, we talked about one of the shocks last week. They were in the upset column. Fresno State, went to Purdue and won. And then they return home, and they need 2 overtimes against Eastern Washington, the FCS team. Now, we know Eastern Washington are good, specifically on offense. Many great players over the years, and is that not where Cooper Kupp came from as well? He comes from there, but they are a very offensively minded team who, they can give you trouble if you've got a bad defense and you're an FBS team who's not great. And this took a field goal in the second part of overtime to win. I mean, how do you go from beating Purdue away to struggling to Eastern Washington at home? Eastern Washington, again, great performance from them. It's just kind of turnovers that in regular time sort of kept them back. But they got 2 touchdowns in the third quarter. They outscored 21-10 Fresno in the second half. They were down. They came back. Took them to 2 overtimes. They're so close, some of these teams.
Yeah, it just feels like a lot of teams they get these weird hangovers, like say, where they come into work the next day and they're just not prepared for what's preparing or in front of them for the next week, or they just get a bit big for the bridges. Fresno State thought, we're the shit. Went to Purdue, took them down. Eastern Washington, they ain't gonna touch us. Like say, they got no on us, and then suddenly they come in and they slap you around the face. and they drag you into hell. Double overtime. No fan wants to see that ever, win or lose. You never want to get there because it's a minefield, and they escaped by the luckiest of fine margins. I say yes, so there'll be another team like you really don't know which one is the real Fresno State.
No, was it week one? I mean, it's the defense. I mean, we'll talk about them. They're in the preview later, but so close. And then the last one, there is another, and then there's a couple of FBS ones, but this extended to the SEC. Kentucky, they took down the Eastern Kentucky Colonels 28-17. This was a 4-point game with 7 minutes to go. Eastern Kentucky came in and absolutely nullified them. Devin Leary and Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky have struggled for a few years now. But again, I watched this. I've watched good parts of it. They didn't look convincing in the slightest. Eastern Kentucky's hung with them pretty much all game. They're another who were dead lucky to escape from a bad performance.
Yeah. I know very little about Eastern Kentucky. Probably the smallest side we've spoken about in the last hour. They're a minnow. But obviously an in-state rival. And honestly, I think they might be the proudest of their performance from last Saturday. Like I say, they made life hell for Kentucky all day. And like I say, up until that final quarter, they were thoroughly in that game at every point and would not let the Wildcats pull away. They could only stay at arm's length. And in the end, they succumbed. Maybe they got tired, like you say, it was just too much for them. It did fall, the Wildcats won, but very unimpressively. Like I said, they made life difficult all day. And if they can take those kind of performances back into their own FCS games, then that should fill them with tons of confidence for the rest of their season.
Yeah.
But yeah, Devin Leary not setting the world alight Kentucky. I questioned the move instantly. I always said I did not like the fit. They're not a good passing offense. They're not littered with talent and offense. I don't get why he went there. Of all the schools I could have gone to, it was my least favourite fit for him. And I feel like his stock is going to die this year, honestly.
It's another trench team, but again, skill players, they don't put as much emphasis. How many Kentucky wide receivers do you know? From recent years, anyhow. There'll be some, but you don't know many Kentucky skill players knocking around. So, yeah. And that wasn't just Missouri. They beat Middle Tennessee 23-19. 4 points. Barely squeaked out of that one. Mississippi State took overtime to beat Arizona. Ended up 31-24, but as you've said in recent years, Arizona are a legitimate threat now and nearly taking down SEC opposition on the road. I mean, good Lord, they're getting close, aren't they, Arizona?
Yeah, the last 2 or 3 years, the Wildcats, they've got really good players out of the portal. Like I say, they picked up 5-star linebacker Justin Law. They got Jaden DeLaura, the quarterback from Washington State, when he left. He's been really good. They just had Dorian Singer. Like I say, he left Arizona, but he was a star wide receiver. Like I say, the Wildcats have definitely, in the last 2 or 3 years, made inroads back to relevance. And I hate to say it, they're the best team in Arizona right now. This state, it's Wildcats right now. And I'd be very surprised if they were to not retain the Territorial Cup this year and take down Sun Devils. It would not surprise me.
No, they look good. They really do. Right, that's everything for that. But God, so many upsets, so many near survivors. This is sometimes why it takes a while to get through them. Mostly, and we're in the scrubby non-con schedules at the minute. I mean, God knows what's going to happen when the conference schedules start and games become more competitive. But so many great games this week that it's been a pleasure to talk about. Brent goes, Dabo's not changing with the times getting... Oh, Clemson. Clemson did not look good. I mean... Oh God, hang on, let me get their game up. I did have them in this week, I think.
They weren't huge, but not impressive.
No, they beat Charleston Southern, but Charleston Southern would be... It was 14-14 in the first quarter. At half-time, it was 24-17 before they ran away with it. They struggled major... I don't even know who Charleston Southern are. I mean, some of the touchdowns, and they were, again... bread through, hot knife through butter type thing with them. It was, oh God. We talked about this last week, actually, didn't we? they're God's NIL thing. I don't go out into the transfer portal and get players from there. Clemson are slipping to irrelevance. I meant to mention this earlier, but with the ACC, with UNC nearly getting taken down, I've got Duke as the second best team in that conference right now. That's where it's at. But Clemson are getting left behind, aren't they?
Yeah, I'd say. And just because they won massively, when you look deep down into it and you actually look behind the numbers, not impressive. Like I say, the first half was really not good. Yeah, at half time, I think they scored like 40 points in the second half to no. I think K Club Nick, like you say, went out there and put up some fancy little numbers in the second half. But right now, he's not cutting the mustard. And I thought K Club Nick was going to be their saviour. Like you say, but no. And like you say, Dabo Swinney is under some of the most pressure he's ever been under. Like I say, Duke have kicked on. UNC are a threat on offence. And FSU are just the most well-rounded team. Like I say,
I forgot about Florida State.
They should run away with the ACC. If Florida State do not run away with the ACC, well, Ash is not going to wear the end of it because I'm going to stick it to him. They should be winning that comfortably.
Yeah, I think. Well, is he getting out recruit? He just doesn't go out and recruit really that full stop. So that's going to be the issue he has there. Derek goes, Georgia's grabbing up all the talent. Yeah, that's fair. Brent goes, have we talked about UCLA? I don't think we've talked about UCLA this season, but a lot of the bigger teams are just not playing fixtures that, I mean, I know they struggled a bit with Coastal last week, but I think they walloped San Diego this week. So we've not talked about Georgia, we've not talked about Michigan, we've not talked about Ohio State. A lot of these teams we just won't talk about until the conference slate starts and there's competitive fixtures, but they look steady. Given the amount they've lost, the results are steady. The defense has been good. I think they've only given up 20 points over 2 weeks. So, but we will talk about UCLA in due course. We'll be talking about the Pac-12 a lot this year because it's going to be uber competitive. Right. Quickly go through the power rankings and then we'll make our pick watch predictions for this week and get out of here. So the rankings as they stand: top 5, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, Texas, USC. Seems about right. 5 to 10. No complaints. I think that's all right. Ohio State, Penn State, Washington, Notre Dame, Bama. I mean, don't think Bama should be ranked top 10, but hey ho. 10 to 15 is Tennessee, Utah, Oregon, LSU, Kansas State. 15 to 20, Oregon State, Mississippi, Ole Miss, I guess that means. I keep wanting to say Columbia. Deion Sanders' team, Colorado, Oklahoma and UNC. And then 20 to 25, Duke, Miami Hurricanes, Washington State, UCLA, Iowa. Don't really think there's a lot controversial in that, really. Seems pretty decent so far.
No, it's pretty steady so far. Penn State behind Ohio State. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Penn State have literally blown their opponents away.
Yeah, I want to stay, and I know this will upset the Michigan fans in the chat, but I think Penn State are going to win the big this year. They have proven me right so far. I think they look good. I think Drew Aller looks really good. They have shown me nothing to make me...
Also, Washington and Oregon, too close together.
Yeah, Washington...
Washington are a level ahead right now. This is why, like I say, they shouldn't even... Until in-conference starts, like I say, the first 4 weeks of like the AP poll, they don't mean a lot, do they? They're kind of irrelevant. Like I say, they're not... This week, it's non-offensive.
Yeah, absolutely. Washington State in there. Derek goes, dark horse to possibly win the last Pac-12 season. I really like Washington State. I really like Cam Ward. They would be a very dark horse to win that. I don't have them having any chance, but I love the team, and if they did, I'd be absolutely ecstatic. So, yeah, maybe. Right. Lot we've talked about there in week 2. Let us turn our attentions to week 3. We'll go through the pick watch fixtures first, and then we can talk about anything you guys want to end the show. In fact, I know there is a question or two that I've missed out. Let me just quickly go back in there. There was one of Derek's. Oh, he said, do you see the NCAA becoming obsolete and the Power 5 conferences forming super conferences and not let the NCAA govern them? Yes. Ryan?
Eventually money will talk, yeah.
I think
eventually you'll get like 2 or 3 power conferences.
I think we're seeing it. The SEC's at 18. The Big 10 is at 16 and the Big 12 is at 16, am I right? I think they'll be the three. They'll be the three super conferences. The ACC will, sort of spread its wings and go out into those three. I see super conferences and I see them being regulated differently. So, yes, Derek, I
think it needs capping. I think like 20. I think they need to get the caps in early. I don't want 24 team conferences.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. Brent, don't laugh at Penn State. I was the only guy on the internet who predicted that Michigan would win by 3 scores against Ohio State last year. I know my Big Ten stuff. Penn State are a good team this year. They're a really good team. So don't put your nose up at them or they'll bite you. I honestly believe that. That big anchor around their neck, Sean Clifford's gone. Juala's special. That's all that team needed was a good quarterback, and they be right up there. So, yeah, right. Anyhow, let's move it on to Week 3 previews. Pick watch. Utah State at Air Force starting this one off. Utah State 1-1 on the season. Started with a 24-14 loss to Iowa. Then had a big blowout 78-28 win over Idaho State. Air Force 2-0 on the season. They've beaten Robert Morris 42-7. Then they beat Sam Houston 13-3. Air Force are exactly who they thought they would be. Over 300 plus yards per game on the ground. They're second in the nation in rushing offense, behind UCF somehow. And the scary thing, they've only got one rusher in the top 100 nationally, and he's 50th. They've spread the ball around 7 different guys at running back. On defense, they're elite. We know they are. They're giving up less than 40 yards per game on the ground and less than 120 yards per game total. They are number 1 in the nation in total defense. No other team is below 150 yards per game. They're below 120 a game, and they've only allowed 1 touchdown all year. Utah State, no slouches though. They're averaging 460 yards per game on offense, fairly evenly split between the run and pass. Slight advantage to the run. They've already got 3 rushers over 100 yards, so very well balanced rushing attack. Run defense is top 40, gives up less than 95 yards per game. And the team have 17 tackles for loss through just 2 games, so they're getting a lot of success against the run. But this will be the big one for them. Right, we know exactly who Air Force are. Elite defense, elite run. Utah State, they look like they're rebounding this year. They're doing pretty well, but they're on the road. But of course, we know if service teams get behind, they can be shocked. Who have you got?
I'm going to take Utah State. I think their offense will be too much for the Air Force secondary. I'd say and John Aldridge III, even though I picked my preseason watch team, he can't do it on his own. I'd say he's going to have to try win this game on his own, like you say, because if Utah State jump out to a lead early, it's game over. Like you say, Air Force won't be able to come back from that because they can't score quick enough. So yeah, I think we're going to get an upset here, and Air Force will lose their duck egg.
Yeah. We're going to split straight away. I'm going to go with Air Force. I just don't know. That defense is elite. The run game's elite. But I could understand if they lose. But I don't know. I want this to be the year of Air Force. They're a good team. They can win the Mountain West. I want them to start off well. So we are going to diverge there. Right. Moving it on. Kansas State at Missouri. Really interesting matchup this. So Kansas State, reigning Big 12 champions. They've started 2-0. They've beaten Southeast Missouri State, and they beat Sunbelt champions Troy by an aggregated score of 87-13. These 2 games. Missouri also 2-0. They beat South Dakota 35-10 and scraped by Middle Tennessee 23-19. K-State we haven't talked about, so just a little bit on them. Coached by Chris Kleeman. Wildly successful at North Dakota State, now in his 5th year with the Wildcats. The consistency in this program, they've won 8 games or more in 3 of the last 4 years. The outlier was the COVID year. Steadily building this program up, made its leap last year, took down TCU in the Big 12 championship game. Offense is as diverse as you can get. There were just 31 total yards between the pass and the run game last season. They were both over 2,900 yards in both disciplines. All runs through the offensive line. One of the best in the Big 12. They had that big boost over the summer when Cooper Beebe, the guard, said he was going back, even though most people expected him to declare. He'd have gone pretty high. They've got all-stars at centre in Hayden Gillum and Katie Leviston at left tackle. All 5 starters are back, got depth behind them. They've not given up any sacks after 2 games so far. Will Howard, the new quarterback, he was Adrian Martinez's backup. He's more of a downfield passer. He's 5-2 on the touchdown to interception ratio, 547 yards. He's got 3 touchdowns on the ground, though he's not really dual threat there. Defense has been aggressive so far. The edge, Callie Duke, 4 tackles for loss, 3 sacks and a forced fumble. Nate Matlock, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. The standout linebacker, Austin Moore, 5 tackles for loss and a sack as well. Team's already got 3 forced fumbles as well, so good offense, aggressive defense. Little needs to be tested though. Missouri, they're dormant in the SEC. They were once a Big 12 power, and when they first went to the SEC, they actually did really well there as well, but those times long gone. Led by Eli Drinkwitz, the former App State head coach. He's 17-19 going into year 4. He's got no winning seasons, no bowl wins. They lost to Army in one of the bowls. Brent will remember that one. The new OC there is Kirby Moore. He was formerly OC at Fresno State. We know how good they are. One of the team's top passing attacks in the nation last year. Very high level offense. They've got a returning starter at quarterback in Brady Cook. He kept his job. He's at 376 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks on the year. Unspectacular, but steady. They've got a really good running back in Cody Schrader. He's at 218 yards and a touchdown. They've got Nathaniel Pete, who's above 100 as well. They've got a really good wide receiver, Luther Burden. He was a super recruit last year, like the high 5-star guys. He's got 213 yards already, averaging 14 yards per catch. They've got a good group behind him. O-line's bad, though. They've given up 5 sacks and 11 tackles for loss in just 2 games. 4 of those sacks and 7 of those tackles for loss came against Middle Tennessee. Defense, interior D-line's great. Niles Gaddy, 2.5 sacks already. Linebackers are really good. You've got Tyron Hopper in there. Secondary's loaded. Chris Abrams-Drain, he's going to be a future NFL cornerback. 14 pass breakups last year, 2 this year. They rank 7th in run defense so far this year, giving up 55 yards per game. Just a small background on them both there. Kansas State, champions against Missouri, seems to match up well on paper. Their D-line against Missouri's leaky O-line, but Missouri got a sneaky good offense this year. They are the better team in the SEC technically. Who have you got?
K-State, and it won't be close. Their defense will cause Brady Cook no any problems. Missouri are frauds, and they're going to get exposed nice and early this season. I just don't rate the Tigers.
I put it in there. It could be a trap for K-State, but I do like K-State as well. So that's a K-State sweep on the panel there. Brent, Mel Tucker won't get paid anything if he's fired, just for the record. He's breached his morality clause, so you can sever without pay. So they'll not need to pay him a thing. Corey, where were we? Third one. North Texas at Louisiana Tech. North Texas 0-2 coming off defeats to Cal 58-21 and Florida International 46-39. Louisiana Tech are 2-1. They've had wins against Florida International and Northwestern State. Defeat came against SMU. 2 teams who've disappointed us, who we quite liked. It's been a disaster start for North Texas, so get these defensive stats. They're the worst defense in the nation. They average 600, that's 600 yards per game given up. Cal had 670. Florida International had 510. They've given up 14 touchdowns in 2 games. They're the worst rush defense in the nation. They give up 292 yards per game on the ground, and they've given up 10 rushing touchdowns. They're 119th in passing defense. And just 8.5 tackles for loss and 2 sacks generated, although they do have 4 forced fumbles. On offense, they can't make their mind up on the quarterback. Chandler Rogers and Stone Earl have both played a game so far. They are at a combined 6 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. They've got 6 guys between 34 and 73 yards with just 2 rushing touchdowns, so they've got no true running back who has emerged. which is surprising given 3 of them went over 400 yards last year. Jay Macklin is the standout receiver. He's got 183 yards and 3 scores, but for first season head coach Eric Morris, it's not going very well. Louisiana Tech also been underwhelming. They just scraped past Florida International, but that actually might be a good result now. They seem to be quite good this year. Before being non-competitive against SMU, then they won against the FCS team last year. Matchup favours them big time here because they're a passing offense. Hank Backmeyer, he's already up at 700 yards for the year, but just 3 touchdowns and 2 picks thrown, so needs to be better. Smoke Harris is the leading receiver with 211 yards. Run game averages 170 yards per game, but the stats were bumped up last week, so you don't know how to call it. Offensive line has given up 10 sacks and 26 tackles for loss in 3 games, which is not great. The defense, it was one of the worst in the nation last year, and through 3 games they do rank 118th in run defense, giving up nearly 200 yards per game, but just 5 touchdowns, so they bend but don't break. Pass defense is ranked 9th in the nation, and it has been getting tested. It's not just because teams are running on them, teams are throwing on them. It's pretty good. They've got 4 interceptions on the year and about 12 pass breakups already. A lot of transfers, so it's taking time to bed in. I mean, 2 teams who started out bad, right? But I mean, North Texas, who saw that coming? 600 yards a game. Who's going to win this one?
LA Tech blowout. I reckon Smoke Harris is going to have a monster day, and Hank Backmeyer. I think LA are going to absolutely rinse them.
Oh, sorry, Brent. My apologies. You meant Mel's losing 7. Sorry. My apologies. I misheard that wrong. I agree as well. I think it's going to be Louisiana Tech, but I mean, good God, 600 yards, 14 touchdowns, 3, and this is against Cal and Florida. Cal, they're not great, but Florida International when they drop 50 on you, that's bad. Either that's bad or Florida International are a ton better than they thought we were. But sweep again, Louisiana Tech for me. God, North Texas rank this year. Next up, James Madison at Troy. James Madison 2-0 on the year with wins over Bucknell and Virginia, we talked about earlier. Troy are 1-1. They beat Stephen F. Austin in the first game 48-30, but then they got steamrolled by K-State 42-13, but K-State are really good. This is a battle of Sunbelt giants. This is Conference 1. James Madison won 10 last year. They're unbeaten this year. Troy, their loss against K-State snapped the second longest winning streak in the nation after Georgia. So Troy know how to win football games, but we've talked about James Madison, don't need to again. Troy, bit of a mystery right now. Offense appears to be better than last year. Gunnar Watson is back for like his 7th year. He's 5-2 on the touchdown to int ratio with 365 yards. Kamani Vidal broken up big time at running back. He had 250 yards against Stephen F. Austin. He was running at 5 yards per click against the Big 12 champions. Targets spread out amongst the receivers. O-line again struggling a bit. 4 sacks, 15 tackles for loss given up. But James Madison not bringing the most pressure so far. Defense has just not woken up yet. It's been elite for years, but they lost the defensive coordinator. They lost both their big linebackers to eligibility issues and some guys to the draft. Secondary has been good against the pass. They rank 50th. The star cornerback, Reddy Stewart, he's got 2 picks already. One of them a pick 6, but they've not really loaded up on the stats as of yet as the Troy we know. Who have you got right? This is big. James Madison, the big boy on the block, but Troy, they're the defending champions. They know how to win games. Tough one at the top of the Sun Belt.
Yeah, this is difficult.
I know who you want to go with. I know exactly who you want to go with, but do you believe in them enough?
Yeah, I think the power shifted. I think JMU are the new force to be reckoned with. I think they can capitalise on a slow starting defence from Troy.
You know what? I'm going to agree. And I'm like the biggest Troy guy on here, but I know when the power is shifting. And I just feel the James Madison train at this moment in time. And Troy...
football can only get you so far.
Yeah. Their defense was elite last year, and that padded up a patchy offense. And outside of Vidal, that offense is still patchy and the defense isn't as good as usual. So I've got James Madison. James Madison sweep against Troy. Next up, we've got Syracuse at Purdue. Back with Purdue again. Syracuse 2-0 on the season. They've had blowout wins over Colgate and Western Michigan by a combined score of 113-7. Purdue were 1-1, lost to Fresno, beat Virginia Tech. Syracuse, a team who are the very definition of mid. They'll have slightly bad seasons and slightly good seasons, but never anything above average. They literally do just exist in the ACC. Dino Babers is going into year 9. He's 36-49. Garrett Schrader, the quarterback, we know all about him. Loves to rush the ball. Not so much a thrower. He's at 543 yards. 5 touchdowns and an interception, but it's hard to take these stats into account because they're blowouts. Offensive line has been a big problem for them for years, and even playing in 2 blowouts, they rank 57th and 95th in sacks and tackles for loss allowed, so still a huge problem for them. They got a load of good receivers this year. Everyone knows Oronde Gadsden, the wide receiver tight end hybrid. You got Amari Hatcher, Isaiah Jones, Donovan Brown, all over 150 yards on the year. And defense, I can't tell you. They've not been tested yet. I don't know anything about it. All I do know, the new defensive coordinator is Rocky Long, who spent years making wonderful New Mexico defenses. So that's got to count for something. Purdue, Ryan Walters, the new head coach, the former Illinois defensive coordinator. We know about the start they've had. Jeff Brohm made this program very successful in his limited time there. They were a bad program before him. He's brought Graham Harrell with him, the offensive coordinator from North Texas and USC. He's very well experienced. Aidan O'Connell gone, Hudson Card in, playing really well. Defense is a work in progress. They got diced up in week 1 by Mikey Keene, had nearly 500 yards dropped on them by a G5 school, but they tightened up last week. 11 yards on the ground for Virginia Tech, kept them to below 280. His DC there is, he bought them with Illinois from him, so Kelvin Kane, he was the linebackers coach, so there's going to be a lot of Illinois about this defense this year. Pressure on the front, ball hawks in the back. Dylan Tienemann's already got 2 picks already. He's going to look to be the first off this pipeline. Syracuse, right, at Purdue. Not been tested yet, Syracuse. Don't really know what they're made of. Purdue, up and down, got home advantage. Who have you got?
I think Purdue will take a close one. I think this will be the first test for Syracuse, and I think that wake-up call losing to Fresno State, I think, has woke Purdue up, and it shocked them into life a little bit. I think their offense might just have a bit too much for that Syracuse defense. Like I say, the Syracuse offense, I just don't trust it passing the ball.
No.
If Purdue can be good against the run, that kind of nullifies the orange, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've got Purdue as well. I just don't trust Syracuse because they're not a team that can be trusted. After 2 wins like that, you'd think, yeah, they can do it, but they'll just let you down. They've not been tested so far, so nothing doing there. Oh, next up, my favourite. Everyone knows this is my favourite. Pittsburgh at West Virginia. The backyard brawl is back. Pittsburgh 1-1 on the season. They beat Wofford to start, but then lost to Cincinnati last week, surprisingly. West Virginia 1-1. Put in a good performance, but ultimately lost to Penn State, and then they railroaded Duquesne in week 2. Pittsburgh, they're actually the number 2 program in the Atlantic in recent years, and Ash can argue with that all he wants, but they won an Atlantic title in 2021, not that long ago. They've got the second most wins behind Clemson since 2019. Pat Narduzzi done a really good job there. It took a long time to get things going, but this program's really exploded in the last few years. But so much to replace on this team. On offense, it's going to be on Phil Yurkovec this year, the Boston College transfer who we've talked about, once thought of as a high draft pick. He's still got that upside, but it needs to materialise here. He went 10 of 32 against Cincinnati. That's really bad, but what he did throw, 179 yards, 3 touchdowns, didn't turn the ball over. He's yet to throw a pick this season, so the accuracy ain't there, but at least he's not turning the ball over. O-line's got to up its game. It's been sacked 6 times. He's been sacked 6 times already. They're not much better for tackles for loss. West Virginia going to put a big old bullseye on that. They lost Israel Abanikanda in the run game. They've been a running back factory for years, but no one's broken out yet. Same with the receivers. Jerkovic hit 13 different receivers against Watford. So there isn't a main guy there just yet. The defensive line has been disassembled completely. You've lost Savotier Dennis to the draft, Kalijah Kansi to the draft, Habakkuk Baldonado to the draft, Deslin Alexandre to eligibility. But they've had over 45 sacks 4 years in a row. They keep making new stars, but not always a quick process. Dayan Hayes, the remaining veteran on that line, has 2 sacks already. They've got a few other guys chipping in. But it's certainly nowhere near as potent as it was a year ago in this fixture. DB's pretty decent. Corners, Marlon Devonshire and Marquise Williams are really good, but they've reloaded at safety. West Virginia, on the other hand, one of 2 Big 12 teams not to make a bowl game last year. Head coach Neil Brown, for me, he's on a real hot seat at the minute. He's 22-25 going into year 5, but they were bad last year. But in this fixture, form goes out the window. This is a very fiercely contested game. It was one of the games of the year last year. The offense is built on its O-line. Zach Frazier at centre. He's going to be drafted pretty high, I think. Wyatt Millam, Doug Nestor at tackles, both high levels. Both guards are returning starters. They've not given up a sack in 2 weeks, which is great for their new quarterback, Garrett Green. He was JT Daniels' understudy last year. 402 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks for him. He's rushed over 100 with a score as well. You've got CJ Donaldson, fit and healthy. Bulldozer at running back. He was formerly an ex-receiver on the outside. Give him the ball, it's hard to bring him down. You've got Jaheim White, over 100 yards. So they run the ball and they throw it really well. They've lost on the D-line, though. Like Pittsburgh have. Dante Stills is in the NFL. Jordan Jefferson, think is trialing in the NFL. But they've got the depth ready to stand up. They've lost less guys for this one. Kentucky edge, Tamiwa Durajayi. He's got 2.5 tackles for loss and 2.5 sacks already this year. They had problems in the secondary with takeaways, but you've got Aubrey Burks, one of the best safeties in the nation there. They've brought in Montre Miller from Kent State. He's going to be starting cornerback to help with the turnovers there. The backyard ride is a wonderful game. The 2 D-lines that made it so good have been ripped to bits, but it's going to be just as fiercely contested again. Who have you got between Pittsburgh at West Virginia?
I'd take West Virginia. I like the guys that they've brought in and the guys they've reloaded with. I just think Phil Jerkovic's time has been and gone. I just don't think he can recapture that fire form here. And CJ Donaldson as well, like I said, a converted tight end running back. This kind of game is made for him to just take that go for the neck. He is a mauler.
Yeah, I'm with you. I know it would be an upset of sorts, maybe a potentially big one, but I like the matchup. The Virginia O-line is a lot better. They've got 3 great guys running behind it, and that Pitt D-line has been wrecked. I just see that influence in this game enough for West Virginia to win it. So West Virginia sweep there. We've got Louisiana at UAB next. We've already talked about Louisiana. Great on offense, but defense is trash at this moment in time. They're 1-1, so they beat Northwestern State early, but then that loss to Old Dominion is going to have stung massively for them. In terms of UAB, Trent Dilfer and co, I mean, the Blazers, they've taken that name and adopted it onto their offense. So Trent Dilfer's airing it out this year. They averaged 338 yards a game in the air, just 129 on the ground. So for all intents and purposes, it's as good as air raid. Jacob Zeno is the new quarterback. It's his 5th year starting properly for the first time. 676 yards and 5 touchdowns after 2 games. Just 1 pick. But get this, he's throwing at an 85% completion rating. 85% of his passes he completes. Got a rushing touchdown as well. Tejuan Palmer is his favourite target, 10 catches, 137 yards. Run game, churning along at 4.5 yards per carry, but they don't really use it. The defence, on the other hand, is the defensive coordinator, like Dilfer, has no college football experience whatsoever. Georgia State took them apart with their own version of the air raid last week. Georgia Southern, sorry. They were 3 of 13 on third downs, so they couldn't kill drives. They can't stop drives. They got killed through the air. They get good pressure off the D-line, but secondary, vulnerable. No picks, just 4 pass breakups so far this year. This is another hard one to call right. You've got air raid against more balanced offense. UAB they're air raid for all intents and purposes at the minute. But then you've got 2 defenses which are just useless at defending against the pass and just bad defenses in general. UAB home advantage, but Louisiana experience advantage. Who have you got?
See, if this is going to be like an all-out offense, which I think it will be, I think I'll take the air raid. I think I just trust a passing offense that can score a bit quicker, potential splash players. So let's go UAB. But I think it's going to be a messy one. I don't have much faith in them, if I'm honest.
Yes, Brent, I did just say Dilfer and airing it out in the same sentence. It is ironic. He never used to do it himself as a quarterback. I just don't trust the Blazers, but they're at home. And Louisiana, that's such a bad loss, but they might... You know what, screw it. I'm going to go Louisiana. I think we might get blowback from the Old Dominion loss this week. And I think that UAB are vulnerable enough, so we'll split. You've gone UAB, I've gone Louisiana. I've got a few more games to do. TCU at Houston. TCU 1-1 on the year, obviously. That game against Colorado, they lost, followed by a more sedate win over Nichols, FCS team. Houston, big impressive win against UTSA, but then stunned by Rice in the Bayou Bucket. Talked about that earlier. We know what these teams are. These are 2 teams who are all about their offense and nothing about their defense. On TCU's side, Chandler Morris has had a rough start, but he's shown glimpses of what he can do. Amani Bailey has been amazing. 230 yards, 7 yards per carry at running back. Trey Sanders is the short yardage back. He's got 3 touchdowns. But the defense is just absolutely rotten. It's been torched more times than a Texas barbecue this season. They just don't know what they're doing with it, and they haven't for some time. Houston, very similar. They've got a steady passer in Donovan Smith, but his ball security is better than Chandler Rogers. He's at 4-1, his touchdown to interception ratio, 493 yards, 60% passing. He's second leading rusher on the team as well, so he's got dual threat. The line's been bad, 6 sacks, 14 tackles for loss given up already. But TCU don't have a pass rush really, so I don't know what that matters. The defense takes an absolute beating on secondary. JT Daniels did them for 400 yards. The difference between them and TCU, though, they've got picks this year. They've got 4 on the season. They do have genuine pass rush up front with Nelson Caesar. Houston do. He's got 4 tackles for loss and 3 sacks already. But, I mean, 2 teams, all offense, no defense. The only difference here is Houston's secondary will get torched, but it does take the ball away occasionally against the quarterback who throws picks. So, Houston are at home. Who have you got, Rye? It's at Houston, yes, Brem.
After last week, I just can't, in good faith, pick Houston. I think TCU will just run the ball down their throat. I reckon Bailey just has a monster day.
This is the one where I overthink it. It should be TCU. It should. I mean, this is a conference game now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Houston are in, so this is a conference game, but Chandler Morris throws picks, and Houston's secondary, 4 picks already on the year. It feels like they could screw this up. But then TCU are going to cook them. TCU, screw it. We'll do a TCU sweep, but I've no faith in that whatsoever. We've got 2 left, and then we're done. The Rio Grande rivalry, New Mexico State at New Mexico. New Mexico State 1-2, lost to UMass and Liberty. They won over Western Illinois. New Mexico are 1-1, hammered by Texas A&M and then hammered Tennessee Tech. Not the start New Mexico State and Jerry Kill wanted. They're having problems with turnovers. Diego Pavia, the quarterback, he's thrown 2 picks in both defeats. In the Liberty game, he threw a pick at 2017 to Liberty. They got a field goal from it. He then fumbled the ball away at 30-17. They got another field goal from it. And then he threw a pick on the next drive. They could have won that game if they'd not turned it over so much. But when he's not throwing picks, he's actually good. They've got a good pair of running backs with Star Thomas and Amonte Watkins. They're a bona fide 1-2 punch. 3 guys over 100 receiving yards. It's the defense that's the problem. They were ranked 30th in the nation last year. Really good players, but it's always difficult for a team that size to maintain such high standards. And when your offense is turning the ball over all game and you're on the pitch all the time, pitch is in English, and it's hard to keep the points off the board. And they've got just 1 turnover in 3 games, which is really poor. They've got players, but until the turnover problems on both sides of the ball are addressed, it's going to carry on being an issue. New Mexico have been hopeless under Danny Gonzalez. It's difficult to work out how good or bad they are. They've taken a pasting from an SEC giant, then they've handed out one to a low-level FCS team. Dylan Hopkins has been okay. He's thrown a pick in both games, but they found a good running back at least. They got Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, 220 yards, 4 touchdowns in 2 games for him. Defense has been busy. The secondary has already racked up 11 pass breakups this year. They've got 2 forced fumbles as well, but again, no picks through the air. It's very hard to judge them after these 2 fixtures. New Mexico State have been really disappointing. Away at New Mexico, who have you got, Rye?
I think New Mexico are going to break their interception duck this week. I don't trust Pavetta as far as I can throw him. New Mexico State will lose this game all on their own. New Mexico just have to hang in long enough to win it for them. Yeah, give me New Mexico.
You know what? This is my last stand on the kill train. I bigged them up a lot this year. I just think New Mexico are awful. I'm going to take New Mexico State in the Rio Grande rivalry, but if they lose this week, consider my interest in them dead as Jerry Kill's name. That's how bad I'm going to be with it. So we got that there, and then finishing it off, Fresno State. I've done it again. I'm sorry, Rye, but with been so many scrub games in the first couple of weeks, it's hard to find semi-competitive fixtures for this. Fresno State to Arizona State. We've talked about Fresno enough. 2-1. 2-0. Great win on the road. Narrow win at home. We know all about them. So the offense is really good. Defense is struggling. We said the big problem coming into the season was pressure off the D-line on the quarterback. They've only got 1 sack this year, and they've played FCS opposition and a gung-ho style offense like Purdue, which give up sacks. So still massive issues on the D-line getting pressure on the quarterback. We know the secondary's good. Cam Lockridge is in there. We both had him on our preseason to watch list. They've got studs at the second 2 levels, but they just can't generate pressure, and it's causing them issues. Arizona State, like you've said, they're in flux. Offense is okay. Defense is okay, but nothing to marvel about. But it's Power 5 on G5. Arizona State are at home. Who have you got?
Not Arizona State. I don't trust Jalen Machado just yet. He's not ready. And if they play him, and if he just trudges on through, then he's thrown an interception in both his games already. And it won't surprise. He will throw another. It will not surprise me. Yeah, I'll take Fresno State.
Right. I'll split and go Arizona State. It's just, they're at home. They're a bigger school. I know they're not as good, but I just don't trust Fresno State enough yet. They've given me one great performance and one that I'm just like, whoa. They nearly lost to Eastern Washington, so there we go. That's everything in terms of the pick watch fixtures there. Let's just have a look quickly. If you've got any questions, everybody who's in the chat before we go, then just wang them in there and we'll answer them all. Thank you for everyone who stuck with us this evening. Got quite a few of you. I meant to ask. Was there a question from Mike that I? There was. So you can start on this one while I get the fixtures up right. But he asked us about JJ McCarthy. What is your opinion on him? Is he a day 2 pick in the draft right now? What have you got?
I don't think he is, but he will be. Currently, like you say, he's playing mistake-free, solid football, and he's doing everything that's expected of him. He's good about being overly flashy. He's a large upgrade on K. McNamara. That I can happily admit that. Likeable kid. Yeah, I feel like currently right now you'd probably get it. You'd probably have to spend like a third-round pick on him.
Mm.
I feel like there's a lot of room to improve, but he's kind of burst onto the scene very quickly last year. I feel like if he can get like Michigan to a national title this year, like then his draft stock probably will boom.
Yeah.
Whether I want it to or not, I feel like the hype train around JJ McCarthy could very much run away quite quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I have with JJ, it's not personal, and it's why I've not talked about Michigan this year. They have not played the level of competition for me to get excited about them. So they played East Carolina. East Carolina had the 129th ranked passing defense last year. That's out of 131. It's about as bad as you can get. UNLV down in the 70s, and they lost their 2 best secondary guys to the portal this summer, so this off season. So it's not that I don't think he's great, but when I see these highlights against secondaries that are poor, I can't glean anything from that. Go and do that against Penn State's secondary. Go and do that against Ohio State's secondary. I'll buy in straight away. But until you play the level of competition, I can't make a cast iron opinion on you, and I just think it's way too early to be crowning him. I mean, oh God, who was it? Was it Harbaugh who said he's an Andrew Luck generational type player? And I just look at that and I scoff. I'm just like, please.
He's got nothing. That's not even a comparison that even makes sense. They're not even comparable players.
One's a pocket passer, one's a dual threat guy. It's
Andrew Luck was strong, physical, big arm. I don't think JJ's got a big arm. I don't think he's that bulky. I don't think he's that physical.
Yeah, so I don't. Yeah, I've got no against JJ, but just wait until the big teams come along. Then I'll start to buy into him. That's all I'm saying with that. So could he be a day 2 pick? He could be a day 1 pick. He's got the attributes to be a day 1 pick, but is he one at the minute? No, he absolutely isn't. So that's what I've got with that. So a few of the other fixtures for this weekend to mention, I wondered about putting them in. Tennessee are away at Florida. Now I know Florida suck balls, but Tennessee have not... I've not actually been enamoured by Tennessee so far. I don't think they've been... I know they big win at the weekend and all, but they started off rough. They were held back for a while. Tennessee on the road there, and LSU are on the road against Miss State as well, and LSU have been... LSU struggled against Grambling to start with. Grambling were running all over them until they weren't, but 2 teams who both struggle, both on the road. Can you see either of those seriously getting upset?
No. But I also don't think either of them will come out of the game looking great. I can still see both struggling.
Okay, fair. Right, so let's look at the big... Because a lot of the big teams are still on the non-cons at the minute. So you've got Georgia at home to South Carolina, Michigan at home to Bowling Green, Florida State are away at Boston College. I'm not even going to pretend that could be an upset. Texas at home to Wyoming, Ohio State at home to Western Kentucky. Penn State start their Big Ten campaign away to Illinois, but Illinois look bad this year. Washington are away at Michigan State. Notre Dame are at home to Central Michigan. Alabama are on the road to South Florida. Utah are at home to Weber State. Oregon at home to Hawaii. We've talked about LSU, Missouri. Oregon State at home to San Diego State. Ole Miss at home to Georgia Tech. Tulsa on the road to Oklahoma on the road to Tulsa. Colorado, in-state rivalry at home against Colorado State. They're about 25-point favourites for that. UNC at home to Minnesota. Duke at home to Northwestern. Washington State at home to Northern Colorado. UCLA at home to North Carolina Central. Iowa at home to Western Michigan. Anything screaming upset out of those there for you? Any that you're like, ooh, actually?
No.
Am I the same? So you know what? You know what? Minnesota are only 6-point dogs against UNC. That, I think, if you're going to put one on, because one thing Minnesota do is kill clock and run the ball well. And that Greek-sounding guy they've got at quarterback's not actually too bad.
Kalamanakis.
Yeah, he's the Greek-sounding one who's a... That could be the upset there for me. Minnesota could win on the road against UNC. I mean, NC Central, that's HBCU school, isn't it? NC Central. Yeah. I'd like to see them play what the HBCUs have not generally done so well so far. I think one of them was... I'm trying to remember. One of them was quite close to an upset somewhere, but outside of that, there's been a lot of blowouts. So, Western Michigan, Iowa... Oh no, Western Michigan got blown out big. Yeah, it's... No, I don't see many others there. I think it's going to be a lot. It's going to be so nice when these non-cons are over and people start playing.
The first, 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, that's why we've not talked about any of the major teams, but there's nothing to say. There's nothing these games prove out there. We do have a few questions, though, to finish off with, so I'll get round to them quickly. Where are we? On YouTube. Brent asked us about NCC UCLA. What's yours take? UCL absolutely blow them out. They blow out the decks on that one. Derek goes, is there any non-Power 5 conference team that could go undefeated and slip into the playoffs? Ooh.
No. The only teams that could have done it have already lost.
I mean, Tulane would have been one, wouldn't they? I'm just trying to think who's undefeated. Let me just quickly go through them. So the American, oh my God, Memphis are the only team in the American left unbeaten. So you've got Memphis. In the CUSA, you've got Liberty and Western Kentucky. In the MAC, you've literally got nobody. They've all lost. That's hilarious. The Mountain West, you've got Fresno State, Wyoming, and Air Force. And then in the Sun Belt, you've got Georgia Southern, Georgia State, James Madison, Marshall, and Louisiana Monroe. Bloody hell, they're 2-0. I had no idea there. Any of them run the table? James Madison are not eligible for the playoffs, are they?
No.
So that would be one of my big ones there.
A lot of them could run the table, but not one of them would get even a second's recognition now.
You would have to go. I think it would be Fresno. I think if you're looking at it, because they're Mountain West, they're round. They're reigning. Or do you reckon Liberty could? I know Liberty are the big name team. Liberty have been ranked in the past highly.
I think Fresno, because they could potentially have multiple Power 5 wins.
Yeah, so I think we say Fresno State, maybe Liberty, Derek. They could be the ones who do go unbeaten there. I think that's it. Have I had anything else? No, I think we're about all good. If I just make sure I've answered everything on Mike's. Yeah, right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Been a long one today, but this has been a lot to talk about, not just on the field but off the field as well. I'll go through all socials, next shows, stuff like that. And if you want to slip anything else in before we're done, quickly do so. But we appreciate every one of you who's been here. There's been a lot of good chatter in this evening, and we really appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed the show and the reviews, the previews, all that good stuff. So the next shows, the Roar of the Lions UK main podcast, obviously we will be back tomorrow. We're talking Seattle Seahawks preview with We Talk Seahawks. They are the UK-based Seattle Seahawks podcast. A lot of good stuff. They're good guys who know their thing, so come and listen to us with that. The College Pod will be back next week. We'll be reviewing week 3, then we'll be looking ahead to week 4 when the real serious games start. And of course, Main Pod will be back Monday as well, but a lot to look forward to coming up with us. Our socials, obviously, you can find us all over YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Just put in Raw Headlines UK. We are thankfully getting that big now that, well, I say that big, not that small that if you type it in, you'll just come straight up to us. So, as I say, just find us in there, follow us, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. It all helps out the channel. We really, really appreciate it. And yeah, I think we're just about done. Anything else you want to get off your chest, right, before we get out of here?
Nope. Just roll on conference games.
Roll on conference games. One more week of the non-cons and then we're into the main stuff, folks, and we'll start getting some of the really big matchups. But for now, Bama are down, we're up, and we will see you again soon. Thank you to Hank. Thank you to Ryan. We are out of here.